Advertising has its case in cars and clothes. Working jobs we hate, so we buy shit we don't need.
The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat.
You have owners. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
This is Our Warrior Podcast.
All right, everybody, so welcome to the Our Warrior Podcast. We have an awesome episode tonight. I am Andrew Kish, as always, here with Bobby Z, Casey Snipes, Telly the Greek. What up? And we have two special guests tonight. First up on the card here is JDubb, a good friend of mine, as well as an entrepreneur. Yeah, I got flubbed that. An entrepreneur and activist, as well as a fitness guru. So, welcome to the podcast, brother. And we also have Khadija.
You should introduce my proper name.
Oh, James Washington.
James Washington.
Yeah, but
JDubb.
His proper name is
James Washington on the shirt.
It's JDubb, man. That's how we go. That's how we do it. We'll put all that proper stuff on the Facebook or on the website and everything like that. But we're also graced with the presence of Khadija tonight, a good friend of Bobby's, and she's hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So we got all kinds of good stuff to talk about tonight. We've been saving this podcast to discuss some of the things that have been going on in pop culture. I know JDubb, you run like a little bit of a Facebook thing with your friends. It's kind of like it's called Chilling with JDubb. So you're talking about pop culture and different ideas. So this was like a perfect.
Yeah, he's JDubb is very active on social media, always putting out great videos and things for people to think about, getting people to think, which is something that before the podcast we discussed that a lot of people just aren't doing. It seems these days. It seems that people just want everything fed to them and aren't able to think like in an environment like we try to develop.
Yeah, just kind of a conversational talking about
but
things.
JDubb's always putting great stuff online and creating great conversation.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So JDubb, what kind of got you interested in starting that conversation and doing that stuff online? Because it's that kind of sprung up for you about the same time when we started doing the podcast, or right around that same time. I mean, what sparked you to do it?
Well, it starts with just having general conversations with people.
Yeah.
And you hear them complain in general about different things, jobs, their kids. And I always bring it back to it starts at home. I always tell them that. Yeah.
It seems like people are constantly complaining, but nobody's really doing anything to change the situation.
Exactly.
And that's really, in a lot of ways, that's kind of like the way our culture is, because it's very hard to make changes, going up the ladder, because there's so many people, there's so much politics and red tape and bureaucracy and all this other stuff that it's hard to do that. So with your little, I guess you call it like a webcast or whatever, whatever it is, and conversation, threads and everything. What kind of things what have you, I mean, it's closed, but what have you learned with some of the conversations that you've been throwing out there?
Some of the divides. Where you have a particular subject. For example, this whole Confederate flag thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh boy.
We're not
wasting any
time. We're
time.
jumping right in, folks. We're going right to the deep end.
Oh boy.
All right. As an African American, supposedly the things that I've researched, and even you talk to people, like especially your ancestors, people who you respect, and you ask the simple question: what does it mean? What does the flag mean to you?
Yeah.
So if you ask an older generation African American person, they'll say, well, it's a symbol of oppression.
Yeah, and hate and all that other stuff.
So if you want to associate a symbol of anything with something that's negative towards a group of people, you can't have it. Yeah. So the flip side of that is you have something so innocent like the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah. Which TV Land decided to pull from its syndication because the General Lee, the 1970 Dodge Charger that they drive, has a rebel flag on the top of it. So I like Daisy Duke.
Yeah. I don't know who doesn't like Daisy Dukes.
Like Daisy Duke. And the Duke boys.
Yeah.
They were just a couple country boys. And
good old boys.
What's the song? It even says that they weren't up to no good or something. Never mean no harm.
Yeah, that was.
Come on, TV Land. What's up with that?
I had all those toys back in the day, man.
What about? Do they still air the Jeffersons?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay, because
they probably air
everything. They be on the same network. And you know what's weird?
Because
about
I think
that the Jeffersons?
Yeah,
he was a racist on the show.
That's what I'm saying. Like
really?
I think that there was much.
George Jefferson.
George Jefferson was a racist on the show.
In what?
Oh, you don't know the Willises? His neighbors who lived in the same building.
Oh,
he lived in this high rise.
Right.
Well, the Willises were an African American female. Roxy Roker is her real name, and Tom Willis, forget his real name, but Roxy Roker is Lenny Kravitz's mom.
Whoa,
people don't know.
Man, we're connecting.
Wait, that's where
7
what
degrees
you're talking
of
about Willis
separation.
came from, right?
No.
What was the other show?
That was Different Strokes.
Oh, that was Different Strokes.
Different Strokes. Yeah.
What you talking about, Willis?
No, trust me. That's why I grew up with that stuff. But I just, my mind's too scrambled.
Well, George Jefferson used to call the Willises zebras because they were black and white.
Yeah.
So he used to call
and that was on TV?
The interracial.
And he would use the word like honky on TV.
Wow.
It was written to the script. So his character was an actual bigot.
Well, that was the same kind of thing as what was that other show? All in the Family or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, that was the same idea. But I think people, when we watch those shows, I don't think that we kind of look at it as frozen in that time period when they were trying to paint a picture of what happens in the home. Like families that how they kind of they're I don't know. They're like I have no idea why they put that stuff out there. Like when you think about it now. I'm trying to rationalize it for myself. Wait a second. This doesn't make any sense.
The other thing back then, as opposed to now, there's less way of people to connect to say, hey, we don't agree with this. Maybe they agree with it and they spoke about it to their neighbors or in their community or whatever. But for people to have an upbringing get outraged like everyone does now, you can just go on social media and cause viral uproar and videos and whatever else.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 80s, 70s, 80s when it was like, all right, well, this is happening on TV and maybe we'll laugh at it because it's a comedy and, kind of just roll with the punches. I don't know.
I think another distraction method too, like the Confederate flag and the Dukes of Hazzard is important. Like the argument, the fact that they focus on it, is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people say like Hogan's Heroes should be put out the.
Oh, right. Well, that's what we were saying about the flag. It's ridiculous.
There's a lot of...
Listen.
People keep... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say...
The whole Confederate flag thing, did that stem from the shootings?
Yeah, well, definitely, yeah.
So after all that, what they're going to focus on is
the gentleman whose name I still haven't spoken.
The guy's name?
Yeah, I've chosen.
Yeah, well,
that's glorifying.
No, you don't glorify any of those punks. I mean,
like any of those punks.
He's just a punk.
That's all they want is attention.
He's misguided. He doesn't have, I mean, who knows what the issue is with the guy? I could care less, honestly. I mean, those people need to just be wiped away. Their images should not even be shown. It should black out their all their stuff. Like, what good does it do us? It doesn't do us any good to see his pictures on his Facebook page or whatever they put out there.
And that's all these clowns.
It's all sensationalism.
The guy who shot up the movie theater,
right?
Like a few
the
years
Newton
ago.
guy,
everybody. I mean, and their faces all over. Even the Boston bomber guy. I mean, his face was all over the place. That's all they want. They'll stay in jail for the rest of their lives and not really care because they got what they wanted. Right?
Yeah, but I think what Bobby was saying too is like there's a deeper issue here, and it's like it's got to be mental illness. It's got to be.
We were talking about the first episode. All the Baltimore stuff.
Yeah.
All they were focusing on was CBS's burn.
Yeah, that's right.
That had nothing to do with the issue as a whole, but that's what they showed because it was sensational.
We don't hear anything about the churches that they've been like the 7 churches or whatever that have been burned down. I mean, that's not in mass media right now.
The Dukes of Hazzard, it's still on.
Well, what I was going to the reason why I brought
up said that
bullshit argument.
Some idiot.
I know. It's just kind of but that's what pops up on what's trending now. It's that. It's not the issue.
Right. It's not the real issue.
It was the number one trend according to JDubb.
I have a little top 5 I do weekly, and top 5 trending items that we may or may not care about. And this was the #1 trending.
Why don't you give us your 5? You put it out earlier tonight. Why don't you, if you'd like, I'll bring up the one important one. I'll bring up the one important one you mentioned, which I give you props for, is about the women's soccer team.
Absolutely,
that's awesome.
That had to be on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by now, by the time everyone sees this, they'll already have won the World Cup. So,
so you're making the prediction right now?
Yeah. There's no way.
You think it's definitely for sure that they're going to win?
Yep. You're getting the Telly guarantee. You're getting the Greeks guarantee.
The Greek is guaranteeing the cup.
No, but what I was going to say was, what I was going to ask, that church burning, shooting or whatever, sparked this thing with the Confederate flag.
Right.
What took so long? Like, why was it that made people get in an uproar as opposed to saying, hey, this is wrong, years ago?
Perhaps it was the...
I do really think it's just a distraction. It shouldn't be connected. That's not the issue. But you can tell that that's what they don't want to talk about what's wrong. They don't want to talk about mental illness or that racism exists in a very real way. That writing hate shit on Twitter.
I think that even afterwards, like when he actually got arrested, that's also been like circulating all over social media about the form of how he got arrested, that they immediately put a bulletproof vest on him and then took him to Burger King for a meal before he actually went to jail, and all these different things, which kind of created, I think, even more of a controversy in addition to the shootings to begin with.
And as Kish alluded to earlier, the fact that you have that flag, the Confederate flag, flying over your Capitol building, I think that it implies that you're representing everyone living in that immediate area versus a flag that's painted on the top of a car. Just kind of representing the guys who are driving that car. It's two totally different things. So to force everyone to follow and believe in this thing that's flying up here versus it's just one guy's car, I have no problem with him having it in his car. It's his belief.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of taste too, and you kind of just have to weigh out, what's more detrimental to the society as a whole. I mean, the Nazi symbol, the swastika, was used as a symbol of peace by many cultures. Obviously, you can't wear it out anymore and be like, oh no, it means peace.
Right.
Like, no, they've done too much damage. It outweighs,
exactly.
the good aspects of it.
But what you need, though, what we're not saying, you need a group of rational individuals to sit down and hash it out on a level where it actually can make a difference. And what I mean by that is, these idiots that we vote into Congress and our senators and people like that, they need to give a damn. So until they decide that family values matter, until they feel like communities matter, nothing will really change. So with that being said, it doesn't mean that we just kind of sit and wait. We have venues like this where we can actually talk about it. We have my little thread thing going on Facebook. At some point, someone's going to hear it. And that's what we want. We want to get the word out.
Hey,
and at that point is when you start making change.
JDubb, hold that thought for 1 second. I just want to quickly do something really quick with the audio here. Hold on a minute. There we go. Bing, bum, bum, bum. Sorry about that, folks. We had a crazy snafu with the audio because we are not audio technicians, none of us. We just rely on computers, and this is part of the problem. We don't know how to do things. We just press buttons and edit. All right, so anyway, jumping back in. Sorry about the audio in the beginning. That's probably just going to be really like room noise, and hopefully everybody is good on there. But what was the discussion? We were talking about JDubb. You were talking about family values in the home and stuff like that. Sorry to cut you off there, man.
But that's where it starts.
You said till Congress and people like in our government that are elected into the government start caring about the things that matter.
Right.
I think that's where you're at.
That's where I was going with that. But again, you got to keep in mind that they're bureaucrats. Whoever is lining their pocket on this side.
They're just a bunch of liars and thieves. And
that's what it's all about for them.
People, yeah.
So until you get a handful of them in there that actually can make an impact and actually give a damn, not much can change. But at the same time, being parents, being people of the community, we need to make the difference down here where we are, on our level.
Right.
Take ownership of what's happening in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So when you can do that, you're making a difference.
Yeah. The reality is that you can make small differences that can be big, monumental things as, when you get a groups of people together and everybody is, sharing ideas and thoughts and I mean, that's why you do the thing that you're doing, is talking about values, beliefs, basically just bringing things out to discuss. We're doing the same thing
Awareness.
here, awareness, just discussing things, and I think you're right. If you start on the ground level, that's how things eventually change.
Someone said when we begin to become silent or stay silent, that's when the problems actually happen.
Yeah.
The fact that things are going on is constant, but if you don't say anything about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you're almost your silence is almost saying that I'm okay with with what you're doing. Yeah, I mean that's definitely, silence is definitely consent in a lot of ways, because if you don't take action against the immoral acts and things that are happening, you might as well just be part of that.
Well, and that's what people are doing, and people have different degrees of doing that. Obviously, as we've seen, from using violence to try to get their point across, and to try to say, hey, we're being oppressed, whoever it is, using Baltimore and Ferguson and all that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just other people who are doing things like we're doing, or people who are just, even just doing their own videos online and just saying, hey, getting their thoughts off their chest and going viral, and people saying, hey, this person has something good to say.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, you were saying something earlier about the whole CBS burning and stuff like that in Baltimore. You were trying to relate that to...
It's just they're focusing on the wrong... The news stations, like Fox and CNN, they're just focusing on the wrong aspects of the situation, whether or not it's on purpose to distract us or just because it's more sensational. We talked about an interview during the Baltimore thing, where I think someone that was a part of the council was making really good points and statements, saying that this problem had been going on for a long time. It was bound to happen.
Issue.
That's correct.
Yeah, it was a systemic issue. And when the interview or the reporter just kind of was ignoring him and just kind of, what about the CBS overdrawn? For like, dude, that's not what this is about. And
eventually the councilman, who was a black man, he's like, listen, you're not listening to me. He's like, I don't have time for this. And then he's going to go talk to somebody else and really try to get the idea out there. And that won't get any traction.
Not at all.
Because we were talking about it earlier before the podcast. The issue is the segregated. We still live in segregated communities. We still have issues with education, with funding, with even down to like the inner city model, everything kind of is. There's much more police activity, because of the suspicions. There's a lot more drugs that flows into those areas.
Absolutely.
So what happens is you get there's no education, and if the teachers they have are literally getting paid almost nothing, so you get the bottom of the barrel basically of the educators. And so what happens is kids are growing up, they don't have a lot of opportunity. So what are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to survival.
Right.
They're going to sell drugs if that's an opportunity for them.
Survival of the fit. Only the strong survive.
And the reality is, I can't, we had this conversation before. I can't fault somebody for trying to provide for their family, even if if they have no opportunity. What do? You got to eat, right? You got to find some way to survive. So obviously, it's not a good choice. It's not something that there's obviously a lot of ramifications to those actions, but. What do?
You feel like you're in a boxing match.
Yeah.
All right. You have Muhammad Ali who's backing you into the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two choices.
Yeah.
You're going to fight back, or you stay there and you take it.
Right. And a lot of people do take it for as long as they can, and then eventually.
And then you have riots. You have uproar. That's what happens. So on one hand, we totally understand. They were frustrated. They were angry. They felt like, listen, no one's trying to hear us. No one's trying to help us out.
Yeah.
The other hand is the way that they responded is not appropriate at all. I mean, I went home. I was very angry with the people.
I'm from
Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore.
Yeah. Right.
So I went home. I was very upset. I let some people know that I was upset. No one said anything derogatory back because a lot of them knew that the things that I was speaking on was true.
What were you upset about? How the people reacted in the city?
Just the way stuff went down.
See, I mean, the first episode we talked about, I am kind of for how they responded, only because I know that's really the only way to get results these days. I know it's not positive, but I know, fear is what you need to use to get results. Unless people are afraid of you and what you can do, they're not going to change. And, with all that happened, the court ruling happened in a matter of days because of that. If it was just peaceful protest, people sitting outside, do you think they would have been prosecuted as quickly? Or do you think, they would realize, we have to do something about this to make this stop?
Yeah.
I see your point. You're very valid with that. I think that my issue was, intelligence always should prevail. It should.
It
I know it doesn't always work
but
that way.
The problem sometimes, though, JDubb, is that when you have illogical corruption, it's very hard to get any footing in an intelligent way, because you're the constituent, and the people that you're supposedly putting your trust in to make decisions for you are making decisions for your greater good.
So now you're hitting the nail on the head right now. See, part of the issue was misappropriation of funds.
Yeah.
So every city in this whole country is allocated X amount of dollars.
Right.
And it's based on number of people. It's based on total incomes.
You mean
et cetera, et cetera.
You mean federally, through the federal?
Federally,
okay.
and then it goes down to the state.
Right.
So every state gets whatever. I don't know the figures.
Mm-hmm.
And then every city or municipality gets a cut of that. Now, how you spend the money is on you. So you can say, yeah, we're fixing roads over here, or we're building libraries. But when the libraries keep closing, really?
Yeah.
Where'd that money
Where's the money going?
You know what I mean? So there's no after-school programs.
Yep.
There are no extracurricular activities for the kids to get involved in. So just like you said, they turn to other things.
Yeah.
So if they don't have those organized sports or whatever, even daycare.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the parents who live in the inner city, Baltimore is very expensive to live in, by the way. A lot more expensive than what we pay up here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of your single-parent households, even the ones with two parents, they're working multiple jobs.
Yeah.
So if they're working multiple jobs, they can't be the parent that the children need.
Right.
That's not an excuse. It's a fact.
Right. No, that's a 100%.
2 points. When you said about when you were talking about people's reactions in Baltimore, and it's because they're I forget how you put it, not educated, right? Or how you put it.
Oh, he said intelligence prevails.
Intelligence prevails.
Yeah.
So that goes to the point of you saying that, people aren't getting the proper education, or both of you were talking about it. So there goes that circle again.
Yeah,
it's just a cycle,
And part of that circle, I don't know if you guys remember when we had that Baltimore conversation, it was maybe that episode or the one after, and I brought up a point about soon after the riots, there was something passed by the Baltimore government or whatever, saying that they were putting like $14 million towards a new prison.
30.
Yeah.
30? All right, sorry.
30.
And they took money out of the education.
Yeah, instead of putting it towards education.
Right.
Or no, excuse me. It was like one day they
cut funding.
One day they cut funding or like negated a proposition for more funds for education, and then it was like a day or two after they had this announcement that they were putting all this money towards prisons. So like whether people were paying attention or not, I mean, I'm sure people in Baltimore were, but were other Americans paying attention to the fact that, like, look, the problem with the cycle in this system in a place like Baltimore is right before our eyes, but everyone's so worried about, like Bobby's saying, all the the stuff that the riots and everything, where it's like the distraction,
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And the prison system is good for their economy. The prison system makes money. Education system eats money.
Yeah. Especially the privatization, of prisons recently.
And just from a different point of view, so for those who don't know, I am in school I'm studying to be a clinical psychologist. So, so yes.
That's why she's here.
So for me, I kind of listen to things like this, and I kind of focus on the children and the adolescents that are growing up in neighborhoods like this, and it's kind of proven anyone who really lives in a lower socioeconomic status is really at a disadvantage, and through things like this, especially with families, it really does start at home, but there's a certain level of understanding of realizing that in areas like that, parents aren't there, and it's because they're obviously working, and a lot of times they come from dysfunctional families that aren't two-parent households, and they're leaving children to be raised by not only the streets, by their peers, but then at the same time, again, there's minimal resources within the actual school itself, and I don't know that there's really a solution to it in retrospect, in just looking at it, because educators themselves are just trying to use whatever they have, and coming from an outside, like from suburbia or anything like that, going into it, there are all these ideas of going, we need to clean this up, but there's a certain level of fear of having your kids not interact with them.
Right.
And I think that's huge, because realistically, you're kind of putting them in this nutshell of going, we want to help you, but as long as you stay here and you're no longer a threat to
That's
me.
what we're talking about, the segregation. There's still a segregated communities that causes the ghettos, that causes the inner city, situations. Everybody looks at it like outsiders come in. They want to, fix things or like change stuff. But you got to come from the perspective of inside. But they don't listen. But you don't listen to anybody from inside the system or inside that culture or that community. And what happens is you just keep going around and around and around, and nothing really ever gets fixed or changed.
Now, here's another...
But that doesn't negate the responsibility, though.
No, it does not.
The responsibility comes from the people that are also in those communities. So, I mean, they have to, like you said, intelligence, they have to, if they're not going to get an education... Just like us, we choose to continue our education even beyond schooling and college and those type of things. Those people have to also take responsibility for that as well, and I think that's starting to happen. I think you're starting to see people that are through the not the riots but the protests. People are starting to like band together and even self-educating each other on issues and things. So that's a positive move. That's a move in the right direction. The problem then is that media takes over and turns it into the rioting, and basically creates whatever they want out of it,
And when you have kids who obviously are impressionable in places, whether it's ghettos of Baltimore or it's the middle of the country somewhere where they aren't getting properly educated, it's not seeing that you have any sort of hope, not getting that guidance from either parents or role models where it's saying, yeah, you know what, you can do this. You can show people that, yeah, you can become, an artist. These are, different things you can get involved with and maybe find an interest, That's part of it too. And when you have that impressionism and like Khadija was saying about, being, kids are being raised. That's why I raised my phone, because we had this conversation, I think like a while ago about, kids, whether it's in the ghetto or whether it's in suburbia, the kids that are coming home, they're being raised by social media and the TV and the other things that the other things you had mentioned. So when you have kids that aren't aware of what's going on, they're okay with things like the Confederate flag, which was part of what I brought up today, which I can bring up, but if you have other thoughts. No. Well, basically there was a picture of Kanye West with a jacket on with the Confederate flag on the sleeve. Now, I don't think it was like recently. I'm not saying that, any of us are paying attention to that, but the impressionable youth and young people in our country who are, influenced by people like this, they are.
They're strongly influenced by that kind of stuff, the pop culture.
The other thing, and like I said, I think this picture was it may have been from years ago, but regardless, it just perpetuates, and whatever his message he's trying to convey with it, or anyone else, that is in the spotlight like that. The other interesting thing that I brought to JDubb's attention this afternoon, because, we knew he was coming on. 2 years ago on his tour, Kanye West was selling T-shirts, merchandise with the Confederate flag on it.
I remember that.
Correct?
Yes, he was.
All right. Now, there's a lot of irresponsibility going on here. You have the people who are booking the shows in these arenas. Obviously, it all comes down to money and power and all that stuff, and people can do whatever they want.
I was going to say, I don't think Kanye West is really worried about...
no, he's not. I only brought his name.
He's only worried about making money and selling tickets.
No, I'm not saying that he's worried about it.
He wants to perpetuate that he does conscious rap, and if you're conscious about it, that means you're intentionally doing this ignorant stuff.
Right.
So you think he's what is your thought on that? You think he's doing it?
I think he's doing it on purpose for attention. Just like Justin Bieber was posting recently wearing a Marilyn Manson.
I think it's just narcissism.
It's a sort of Christian thing.
My point being is that when he's selling merchandise that has these flags on it, where were all these people protesting? there's bloggers. I mean, I saw articles like on Huffington Post and CNN and all these other, when I did a search on this happening 2 years ago, when I heard about it, when I read about it, and the bloggers had it out, but where were the protests? Where were people saying, the people who may have been opposed to it that were sitting in an office in the arena that he was booked at and saying, why are we allowing these things to be sold? Obviously, they probably don't have the power to stop it, but it's still perpetuating it, and it's still influencing the people who are buying it, who are the kids, who are impressionable youth. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're on the right track.
It's perpetuating the issue. This was 2 years ago, and now 2 years later, and it's like a huge issue now.
Because it was associated with that kid who did the shooting.
Right.
It's one of those things
But
where...
it was cool when Kanye West did it.
Apparently.
Because he's cool to all the kids.
Exactly.
Right. Well,
but this kid killing people wasn't cool because of how it was done, et cetera, and then he carried it out, under the name of the flag, so to speak. You know what I mean? So
it all goes back...
It's what it's associated with.
It all goes back to education. And I know, obviously you brought it up. You guys brought it up.
Education is important, but I don't think this was a situation that could have been prevented really with education or family values, because no one's born a racist. Clearly his father or family were shitheads and they instilled these ideas upon him. No one has a family that's completely tolerant and open to everything, and they have some weirdo racist little kid who's ignorant. Like, that doesn't happen unless he has a group of shithead friends.
I was going to say it could be outside influence. It could be.
Yeah. I read stories about the father buying him a handgun when he was 21, knowing that he had all sorts of psychological problems and prior incidents and issues. Like, he was clearly an issue. He had lots of problems, and buying your problematic child a handgun for his 21st birthday.
Not to mention, and this is just, since we have the sounding board, but based on what I read about the situation, he's a complete coward. I mean, he didn't even I think he came into the Bible study or something.
He sat
down for a while, had conversation, and then pulled the piece out.
He didn't have the nerve. He didn't walk in there.
Before this keeps going, I just wanted to make a point that I wasn't connecting education to what happened.
No, I know.
I was connecting. It hasn't to do with how smart this kid was or how educated he was, or if he had a college degree or if he graduated high school. It was just that people aren't educated.
Well,
and they're not. It's not getting to their head like, hey, like. Well, you made whatever. Go ahead.
You made a point, Telly, that there's a lot of people in the system that are just yes men. They're following. They're not questioning anything. But that 100% goes back to education, because we are grooming and educating children to not ask questions, to just follow blindly. And what happens is they get into a corporate setting where whatever this clothing is being made, and nobody's raising questions about it. Right. They're just following the rules because they've been programmed over the course of their 18 years or whatever, 13 years from when they're in kindergarten all the way through their senior year, and then if they go on to college, to just be completely be a good a good Johnny and sit in your chair and just be subservient to the ideas that are coming at you, and don't ask questions, because if you ask questions, you're out of line, or you're ADHD or whatever.
Like I said, there's too many inconsistencies, too many mixed messages. It's I don't know.
You touched on it right there when you said inconsistencies. Like I said before, this whole flag thing. It was cool. It's cool to me with the General Lee. It's not cool that you fly on the Capitol building.
And right. Is it cool that an African American male who's one of the top celebrities like in the fucking world is making money off of it?
Not at all. Not one bit. Especially when he doesn't need the money.
Right. Well, and that's.
I would really want to know what his message was.
I don't think he had one.
No, he had one.
He didn't have a message.
He had one. You want me to find it?
He had a message about why he was wearing the flag.
Yeah. Because when I posted this,
isn't it about being a rebel or no?
Well, the flag is called also a rebel flag. So you could use that moniker. You know what I'm saying? As his his selling point. Like, look, we're rebels. We're not following.
What if he would have like been holding up, like, what if the guy was like a super geek and he was holding up like a Star Wars flag? Would we just like ban all that shit too?
Unfortunately,
no.
Yeah, he wouldn't have done it because Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever is all encompassing, and they have black people, Asian people.
They do. It crosses a lot of lines.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been fine.
It would have been fine.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't have, or he was wearing like a, like a popular T-shirt. It's just at some point though, you have to go. You can't give power to images and
that might be what Kanye was trying to say. Like, I can wear this. Let's take it back. Take the power out of it. And
and I think you're right.
I think you touched on something right there, Casey.
He's going to take it. He's going to take it back. Say we're gonna. It doesn't matter. Like, I can wear this as just an emblem. It doesn't have to be an image of slavery or oppression and that type of thing.
Things giving you power. We've all been kids, and growing up where I grew up,
we came out.
Have you seen the movie Jack?
we were full formed.
Growing up where I grew up, the name brand of products was really coming into the forefront. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't have the latest Adidas,
Tommy Hill,
Puma,
Jordan's baby,
Timberland, whatever it was at that time,
North Face, all that.
If you weren't wearing it, you were outcast. You were picked on. You were shunned. You were put in lockers. Mm-hmm. So that also created issues, social, economic issues, because your parents couldn't afford to get that stuff for you. Mm-hmm. So
that's still got to be happening, though.
Oh, that's still happening.
It is, but I mean, that was kind of like when it started. 60s, 70s was real laid back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's because of psychedelics. Mm-hmm. Bobby's been on an experiment. He's been experimenting for us, so he's gonna weigh in later on.
This is what Kanye West said. Not to keep talking about this fool, but
he's getting a lot of burn on here tonight.
I mean, look, he's getting burnt because it's ridiculous that these are the people that are influencing our kids.
He's Jesus.
React how you want. Any energy you got is good energy. You know, the Confederate flag represented slavery in a way. That's my abstract take on what I know about it. So I made a song, New Slaves. So I took the Confederate flag and made it my flag. It's my flag now. Now what are you going to do?
So maybe that guy was listening to Kanye West.
But the problem is,
we don't know.
The problem is, that's fine that that's his message, but like still
Kanye West sounds like a child who doesn't know how to share.
Yeah, well,
it's like, that's mine now.
Yeah, he gets up on stage. He's like, "Listen, everybody, give me the mic. I want to talk."
Regardless,
remember that time he took the mic away from Taylor Swift?
Yeah. I think it's happened a couple times.
He just did it again.
I don't watch any of this stuff.
Somewhat recently when Beck won the Grammy.
That's right.
I guess someone needs to knock him.
He was upset at Beck, I think, because he won the album of the year and Beyonce should have won or something, right?
Whatever.
He thought Beyonce.
I just felt it was relevant and
not to
that's
denounce,
why I brought it up today.
Not to denounce Beyonce and not to go off on a tangent, but recently one of the things that was trending as well was Janet Jackson won some type of iconic award. I think it was on the BET Awards. I didn't watch the show, so that's why I'm giving you I think, whatever. I'm just going by what I read and what I heard. Mm-hmm. So she received some huge award.
You know you were watching it, Jay.
And
tuned in.
Less than 5
hoping
minutes.
To catch
Beyonce bouncing around on there.
Didn't see that.
What? So Casey was watching.
Long story short,
no,
she won this award, and then I think the next day on social media, people were saying, "Well, she was good back in her time, but it's all about B right now, Beyonce." So I jumped right in there. I was like, wait. I said, you got to go back to
there would be no
Jackson 9 because she's the youngest of those children.
Yeah.
She was performing in Vegas when she was like 5-6 years old. So don't give me this Beyonce crap. Beyonce's fresh. She's new. I know she's had a few years.
She's actually not that
She started with the Destiny's Child thing. She was a teenager. But my point is, Janet's been doing it for a little longer.
Agreed.
She has staying power. Her fans haven't left her. So I was like, if you have to pick,
she also made some good quality music.
She does,
too, like back in the day. I mean, it wasn't just this. I mean, I don't even get some of the music now.
Some of the trendy stuff. She doesn't do trendy stuff.
The problem, it all goes back to connectivity. I mean, people are so impressionable. Kids are so impressionable. Young people are so impressionable by what they're seeing and what they're informed with. And when I say this like pretty much every show, I think, when we didn't have internet, it took a lot more effort to find things.
It did.
To find good things, to entertain yourself with, to inform yourself with, to educate yourself with. So when people are just getting Beyonce shoved down their throat, they don't care about Janet Jackson. They don't care about good hip hop from the 90s. They don't care about any, stuff that just already happened. And granted, we could say that about our generation too, but I don't know. I think.
Well, we live in a 15-minute culture right now, so it's like everything that if it hasn't happened within the last couple minutes or the last week, people don't care about it. A lot of the kids don't have an education of where things came from anymore. They're just kind of exploring what is now,
right.
And parents aren't instilling that. And I came from a really messed up household, but I still my dad still listened to music, and he would tell me about the band, even though I wasn't I wasn't interested in that music. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a different kind of thing, and I think we all kind of had that. We all were listening to a lot of different music when we were growing up, and then then the late 80s and 90s happened, and then, as we were getting older and, we started researching finding our own music and everything. But I don't think kids have that now as much now.
They don't.
Kids find music on their own a lot sooner. Mm-hmm. They're not listening to their parents' music. You know what I mean? Because they have their own iTunes, MP3 player, iPhone or whatever it is, and they're listening to that.
Yeah, you don't have to wait till release day on Monday to go get
a CD
or tape from the store.
Oh man, those were the good old days. I love that.
Mixed CDs.
The mixtape or the latest CD that was coming out.
Telly was waiting for
the cassette.
Telly was waiting for records and 8-tracks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think it's just a lot of stimulus overload to begin with.
Agreed.
There's so many things that are catching their attention, and on top of it, it's kind of like a popularity contest just to begin with in social media.
So
and
true.
In general, I think that parents can't monitor anything anymore.
Yeah.
Where before, growing up, with me, you could really just pull an Ethernet cord and that's it. You were the game over.
Yep,
and now it's not like that at all. So it's get off of your phone. Okay, you're texting, you're Snapchatting, you're doing.
Well, you have 3
all
other
these
devices that you can still get on the internet with. It's like, give me your phone. Okay, now I'm gonna go on this, whatever device it is. I don't know.
So
what you're saying is
teenage boys these days. My only computer when I was a kid was in my parents' bedroom, so I had to be extra sneaky when I looked at certain things.
Oh yeah.
Or there was channel 99 and 100.
So what you guys saying is you saying the Amish are on to something?
I don't.
They're on one.
They're on something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's a totally other village type situation, man. Where they're they just are they keep themselves away from everything, and then their kids get to be 16 and they just run loose, man.
One of my issues with that was the whole hygiene thing. I have an issue with that. I work with an Amish guy.
Oh wait, what's this?
He said that deodorant was not part of their culture. He also stated that 1 or 2 bathings a week was sufficient. That includes the females.
Yeah, and there's doctors that are saying that. Maybe not 1 or 2 a week, but they're saying that you shouldn't, but it's good to not take showers every day.
All right,
I did hear that.
That
is true.
Yeah.
I did hear it.
I love showers. I would take 2 a day.
2 a day?
I would take 5
I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying
But can you imagine the smell coming out of that dinner hall after they put up a barn? You know what I'm saying? It's no showers today, folks. We're gonna,
Hey, if everyone's right,
you all get used to it.
This gentleman that I worked with, he was a younger guy at the time, and he was growing his little beard in and stuff. Well, he was working, I won't say where I was working, but he was working at a place, and he was at the end of the line, so to speak. And that was
not by
intentional.
Choice. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not by choice.
Down at the end of the line, so that and they called him Pigpen.
What was his name?
He smelled like Italian hoagies.
His name was Enoch?
Enoch. So we put him at the end of the line. They called him Pigpen.
That's awesome.
And no one wanted to go down there to smell anything. I mean, even the other people who came into the building where I was working, they didn't want to go down there near him either.
Did anybody?
Until he was done for the day?
Did anybody politely pass him a note? Anonymous.
Secretly Febreze him.
You know what's weird about that? We talked about
jacket
it in our HR meetings, and we say that that's something that you can't really go to someone and complain about. There is no polite way to say it, because even if you say,
were you in the union at the time?
Wait a second. What?
I can kind of smell.
I feel like
you know what I mean? There's no polite way. You're going to be offended.
You immediately get offended.
Yeah, immediately. So it's one of those touchy situations.
So HR says, nope. You just got to
deal with it.
Just got to work in the cubicle, man. Yeah. Wow. We've gotten to some of the most ridiculous times in human history.
We have.
This is ridiculous.
It's because he offends you that.
Well, no, I'm just saying there may be
you have a point.
Yeah.
He has a point.
We're
offended, the bathers. We're offended by people who don't. So now we're segregating people.
Yeah, but there has to be a common courtesy, right?
I agree with you.
You're working together in a community.
It's
not like
in the Amish community, everyone smells like that. So they're like, someone comes in with perfume, they're like, whoa,
yeah, exactly.
get out of our So I don't know.
Well,
yeah, but he wasn't working in the community. In his Amish, he's working in a different
an actual company.
Yeah, now we have
he wasn't churning butter.
No, he wasn't.
Now we have rules.
He wasn't building
those
little heater fire things.
Oh, the fireless heaters, whatever they're called. What are they?
I just think that
those things really work.
I think it's amusing that we can't just be humans and talk to our fellow humans. Like somebody's going to take offense or get upset right away. And I don't think somebody that was going to bring it up to the guy was taking offense to it. They were just saying, "Hey, I was just letting you know that I
wish you were more like me."
Yeah,
but then you were insulting his intelligence, right? Because you're saying that you don't know that you smell like this.
I'm sure they
That's
know.
what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're just used to it.
He's probably okay with it.
Supposed to smell like.
Well, which is probably true. We probably are supposed to smell like that. You know what I mean?
Don't.
I think a lot more marriages would probably
perfume
last
companies
if people knew what the hell, because they say pheromones are really, really like important to like choosing a mate or whatever, that kind of stuff. Like if you get into animal kingdom, so we cover all that stuff up, and then we wonder why, like, holy crap, I got I married this.
So you attract the wrong. So it's possible to attract the wrong mate based on what your cover-ups.
Well, yeah, you're smelling Beyonce spray or whatever, and you're like, yeah.
Wait a minute, I wanted J-Lo.
But don't you get offended? Don't you get offended if someone has too much perfume on? Like, how do you? It's the same thing, right?
I just walk. I just like go the other way.
So, Andrew, what you're saying is, if I don't want to be single for the rest of my life, maybe I should stop taking a shower.
Stop. Well, no. You can shower.
Will spit his drink out.
Shower, but don't wear any deodorant, or only wear a little bit, so that way it still lets some of your pheromones come through. By the end of the day, then you go to the grocery store, cruise the aisles a little bit. Who knows?
Listen, from a female point of view, no shower.
No, okay,
so get it together.
I'll take your advice.
Don't use that advice. But who knows? If there's anybody out there who's listening that knows anything about pheromones, you got to shoot us a message or something like that, because I am completely ignorant I don't know what I'm talking about right now. I'm just throwing stuff out.
So JDubb, I have something I wanted to bring up. Something I saw you write about a few weeks ago, or talk about when some of these candidates for president were starting to pop up, and you said that you wanted people to give you issues that they were interested in if you were to announce yourself as a candidate. And two things that you mentioned, or one thing that you mentioned that I totally agree with you on, about what the major issues were, the biggest issues for a candidate, and they were education, which we already touched on, which, yes. I mean,
that's
definitely feel free to touch on more, and then the other one was healthcare, which we could sit here for 2 hours and talk about healthcare, I'm sure, because we all have our feelings on that.
I just don't do it.
You don't care about health? Is that what you
No, I just don't do it.
Don't do healthcare?
Just don't get hurt.
I would be interested to see what the media's top things are. It's probably now it's like the gay marriage, the racial kind of divide. I mean, it's all these very social things that divide people. It has nothing to do with.
But it's like anything else. It's not getting to the root of it. And
it's not.
Like James said, the root of these issues is education.
It's education. It's home. I just keep bringing it back to community.
And health's the same way.
Health is the same way.
The healthcare system is the same way. We're treating people when they're already sick.
Right.
Instead of being preventative and saying, here I go again, right? Instead of getting people to eat well. So we keep looking at these racial issues, if that's like a topic like that you said is something that candidates are going to be focusing on. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, hey, the reason that we have these issues is because as Americans in general, we're not educated, and I'm not saying sitting in a classroom all day, being more focused or being more open to.
But they don't want you to be that.
No, I know they don't. I know our system doesn't.
The education doesn't want you to be. They don't want.
But regardless, they're similar.
Free thinking.
It is.
Yeah,
another thing that we kind of missed too, and it was a terminology that I grew up with. It was called each one, teach one.
Teach one,
yeah.
I mean, it just makes so much sense. I mean, if you can literally infect one person with positivity, you've already accomplished, light years more, than your average education system. Yeah. Because you put people through school, they're only going to take in so much.
Right.
But when you actually take the time, you go one-on-one with someone, your neighbor, your best friend, whoever, anybody, and you infect them with something positive.
Casey got banned from the schoolyard. He was trying to do the one-on-one. So, they were like, listen, pal, you can't come in here and talk to the kids.
I got to get them while they're young.
Yeah, he said, I got to talk about the Art Warrior Project.
Did he have candy in his pocket when he was
No,
I don't.
He's not a creepo.
Root beer barrels.
I'm just kidding.
Did he have a white van with the
with a unicorn airbrush on the side?
To get back to what Telly was saying, though, about if I were a candidate running for office, the main platforms that I would stand on would be healthcare and education. I feel like those are the roots of the main problems that we have going on in this country. So if you educate people and then you get them to understand what health is and how important it is, I can throw a couple numbers out there at you because I actually read. 66 and 2/3% of all humans in this country are overweight.
Yeah.
Now, overweight is 66 and 2/3%.
Okay.
That's 2/3.
Oh, okay.
So
2/3.
Overweight means
you got to give us the dummy version. You can't give us the big numbers.
So
we're a product of the education
overweight is
system.
defined as being 1 to 25 pounds over your weight based on your height, your age, your overall structure. Because you can be 6'5" and have huge bones, and if you weigh 300 pounds, you're probably not overweight. But this is how they look at it as, in the healthcare industry.
Big bones a real thing? I thought that was just Cartman's excuse on South Park.
Yeah.
You actually do have big bones.
Oh, okay.
Big bone people.
But the other side of it is, if you understand what causes this, some people say, well, listen, my parents were fat, so I'm going to be fat.
Yeah, genetic. They blame it on genetics.
So it has a role. But if your parents decide, one day in their 30s or 40s that, damn, these cigarettes ain't good for me, these donuts aren't good for me, you immediately see the effects, the positive effects of that. Yeah. Walk every day. I'm not saying go to the gym every day. I'm not saying you have to go run 5 miles. Take a walk during your lunch break. Take a walk after you have dinner. Those are the kinds of things that are the small baby steps that make a huge difference.
And I definitely agree with that. I'm going to touch on it from a mental health point of view with that too, but specifically even food, they're now having so much research done that the bacteria and all the different things that are in your stomach correlate directly to mental health. And touching on that too, even in America specifically, I think that's a huge issue we need to touch upon because mental health isn't discussed, and if it is, it has a huge
Bobby,
stigma.
can you pull the mic a little bit closer to her? Yeah.
It has a huge stigma attached to it. Even I think there's some estimation that any adults that are over 18 years old, that there's 40 million Americans and 18% of our population that suffer from anxiety disorders, but only a third of them actually get treated for it.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of insurance companies that, especially life insurance and things of that nature, that will not provide insurance to you because of these things, because you're a liability.
That's correct.
And moving even forward to that food specifically alters your mood and it helps you. And I think that when you start to crave carbs and sugars and all these things, that definitely affects your mood and puts you in depressed states, which therefore leads you back to this vicious cycle, and it's this hamster wheel that you need to kind of get off of. And just in general, I think that everything is in our society is used as distraction, and the more distracted you are, the more you are unlikely to be consciously aware of it, and you're going to just do any instant gratification. And I think that's so huge because no one's willing to put in the work, specifically whether it be to your physical health or mental health, and it's always the quick fixes, whether it be medication, whether it be the latest diet fad, and things of that nature.
Pop a pill.
So,
pop a pill, absolutely.
That's it. Pop a pill.
I wrote down a bunch of things. That was I was sucking that information up. But you made a great point at the end there, and you said about people are trying to look for a quick fix, trying to find a way to boost their morale or their mood. And what I think that is that it's lack of fulfillment. People they're caught in this hamster wheel. I forget who mentioned that, but they're caught in this hamster wheel of this daily routine, this unfulfilling life. They're following somebody else's footsteps, and that adds to it. People are looking for, this is a sweet thing. This will make me forget.
A McRib to make their day a little.
Yeah, right. It just makes them. They get that instant thing, and that's the worst possible.
Wait. Did McRibs come back?
to an extent. You know what? To an extent.
I don't know about this.
Casey.
Of course, the brother chimes in on the rib part.
It's not even real meat, but they're pretty good. So it's like
processed cardboard.
To an extent, you know what? I mean, people do need to live and enjoy their life. And I mean, granted, you're talking, you guys know most of you guys know how I feel about food and stuff. People still do need to live enjoyably in moderation. Mm-hmm. But we don't have moderation.
We don't.
That's the problem. No. We don't have moderation.
We have extremes.
So that's the issue. To trying to get people to understand. Hey, if you do have ice cream, maybe have it a couple times a week, as opposed to giving it to your kids as a reward for having dinner. Oh, Johnny, have your dinner, or else you won't get ice cream. Guess what? That's why we have issues.
You create that.
That's why we have issues.
Sounds like bad parenting, right?
Again, that's at home.
I'm sorry. That's
so the good and the bad.
That's a bad example, and it's horrible for me to say that as a non-parent.
I'm sure that happens.
But it's and with the whole food, not knowing about food. When people don't have the funds and they're presented with the cheap food or the McDonald's of the world and all the other stuff that's garbage.
By the way, McDonald's is slowly being phased out.
Oh yeah,
you guys seen about that?
They're
hemorrhaging a lot of money. The company's not doing so well.
Yeah.
I think that's a good sign that people are starting to go, care about what they're putting in their bodies. Monsanto's under a major attack from consumers now. We're really conscious of this. The problem is that the government keeps passing these bills that allow. What's the recent one was in the trade? There was something in this trade bill that went through that's a big issue where it was allowing companies to not have to put labeling on stuff, or I don't know the exact
meat thing that I mentioned the other night.
No, it was something about the genetically modified foods and not having to disclose where it comes from.
Yeah,
that's the meat.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, they just passed something saying that meat that meat that's in the United States doesn't need to be labeled with its origin. So people are up in arms about that.
Well, but one thing that always bothered me, just jump in real quick. Yeah. Even a comedian said this, and it turns out that it's 100% true. Like you're saying, comedians are actually educated. There's when health inspectors come through with places where food is processed, especially meat, there are acceptable levels of things like bug excrement in food. Because you can't have it.
Bug excrement?
I'm being 100% accurate.
It's their own excrement.
Well, excrement, period.
Well, yeah, bro. But they're factory farming.
It can't be 100% clean. You know what I mean? It can't be dookie free.
Yeah, these animals are in these pens, and they're just rolling around in their own excrement, and that's why there's all this illness and stuff going through
E. coli
them,
and things of that nature.
Then they have to pump them with antibiotics and all these other things in order to get it to the point of being able to be served. But
I guess that's a bad thing. If we're not really supposed to eat that much meat, then the people that are eating meat don't know where it's coming from. We just let them die off, and everyone who's eating healthy, we're just going to create a world of
but don't associate eating healthy with just not eating meat. Because I'll tell you from my own perspective, I just watched this thing. It was a little clip of a Maasai tribe or something, and it had nothing to do with meat, but they were facing off against these lions to get a piece of their kill. So there was a group of so these guys, these Maasai warriors or whatever, they have literally a spear.
Where is this? What part of the world?
I'm not sure.
Detroit. Africa?
Yeah, Detroit. I don't want to say because I'm not 100% sure, but so they were. It was somewhere where there's lions and
tigers and bears. Oh my!
So they
the NFC North.
Yeah. So all they have is a spear, and they have to posture themselves in a way so that it looks like they're intimidating to lions. And without confrontation, the lions backed off the kill. They went over. They cut a leg off of the wildebeest or whatever it was.
See that.
Did you see the video of that? Okay.
And what
it's pretty impressive.
To the
lions? No. They took it.
Oh, okay.
They took it for their tribe or for whatever for the community. So what I'm saying is, they're obviously in a situation where they're eating meat.
Right.
We immediately associate eating healthy with just eating
food.
You know what? I don't.
You point to it good that you like to get your own meat, right? Like that's a better way to live,
point.
Right?
Factory farm meat, which is the majority of the meat in our country, that's where it gets to the point where it's. I don't want to use the word unhealthy. It's just people need to be more mindful.
Well, it's kind of immoral in a lot of ways. But here, I was thinking about this the other day about the factory farming and killing animals and whatever. My thought process is this: if you're not willing to get your hands dirty and do it yourself, you really don't have a voice to criticize how somebody else decides to get that meat for you.
That makes sense.
If you buy that meat, right? If you're going to go to the store and you're going to consume that, you've got to be okay with somebody else's choice of how they get that product to you,
and then lying to you with what it is,
whatever it is.
That's every time you go in the store.
So
you
have to take responsibility about consumerism. So it's. What's really interesting to me is when people watch those videos about factory farming and then they're like grossed out after years of eating. It's like, how did you think it was happening?
But you know what?
Like, did you really think that they were like petting them and slowly leaking out their like? I mean, come on.
We've gotten to the point though where these farms are increasing in size. Obviously, we have more mouths to feed.
Yeah,
and it's getting
they're unhygienic, and they're also not good for the animals. Like the animals aren't living.
No, that's why I said they're rolling around in their own excrement, and then when they get sick, then that's when they have to pump them with stuff, and they pump them with stuff anyway to get them bigger.
We stop eating that. They should. Just,
I watched one of those videos recently, and it really did bum me out. Like it was an extra graphic one, but. I'm less bummed out about the animals and what they're going through, which is awful, but I'm more bummed out just the fact that people are able to do that. Like we're in a society where we're kind of making that okay, and not only okay, but that's a job.
It is.
That's gross.
And that's way, I think, more horrible than just the fact that we're putting animals through harm.
You mean the people whose job it is to work in the factory farms?
Yeah, like
most of them are immigrants, like illegal immigrants and stuff.
But still,
a lot of them. Some of them are also. I've seen ones where they're like these these white men just like beating the crap out of animals.
Yeah, that's
and like
get off on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's way
sadistic.
more horrible that our society is getting to that point. Let alone besides the fact that we're harming animals. Like, yeah, obviously it sucks that we're harming animals. Either way, those animals are getting killed in some way. I think it's just more horrible that we're
harming animals has nothing to do with our health, though. I mean, you were touching on just strictly the health aspect.
I was just branching off.
I mean,
I think that it's a product of our culture. I think it's also a product
of horrible.
Like that's a horrible job too. Like think about it. If your job day in and day out is to just bring animals, at some point you have to disconnect from what you're doing because you're doing something horrible. You're just bringing these
that's
animals
way more
to slaughter.
harmful to society than anything else.
Well, right, but we have the same issue with people going to war, and they don't know why they're killing this person. They see somebody in a scope and they pull the trigger and they're just offing somebody, and they have to disconnect. That's why they come back with PTSD and all this other stuff, because there's no way. How do you as a human being that has like emotional and empathy, or if they have empathy, I guess some of them maybe don't. But
shooting people, I don't think you got to lose that empathy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Did you see American Sniper?
No.
We all
it's like a propaganda.
Maybe we need to have a viewing of that.
But
I
don't really want to
watch it either.
The point about that is you have to, at some point, like you said, you have to disconnect that, because otherwise, how can you do that? How can you even do that job? How could you be in the military and be shooting people
they just
and
teach
killing
you that
people?
They're not human. They're just like some kind of target.
But that's
same with the animals.
That's the point we've gotten to. And to go back on what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that this is where we are, and I agree with you.
To go back on what you were saying about how people who complain about factory farming now, why have you thought of that like for the past 10 years or however? That's pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we've gotten more informed again, and I say this every podcast. We've gotten more informed. No, well, it's true.
I know. We
you
say it.
Yeah, I mean it's true. Like we ate fast food and soda, and I was at Burger King and Subway and all that stuff when I was a kid. But that was in the Stone Age, according to you. But we become more.
JDubb, we got to bring you up to speed. We got to.
Well, and Khadija.
Yeah, and Khadija.
Yeah.
Telly's is like 75.
75.
Yeah, he just like happens to be Greek and has found the Fountain of Youth.
I have the Fountain of Youth. I have the location is in Bethlehem, PA. But it can't be disclosed.
It's under his greenhouse, which
it's under my garden.
The feds are like watching his greenhouse.
It's either Pirates of the Caribbean, like in the sunlight, you see the skull.
Oh, that's right.
Or he's Dorian Gray, and he has a picture of him.
Well, then it could be him.
Who?
Dorian Gray. Who's that?
I know who Dorian Gray is.
Yeah, he's a literary character.
50 Shades of Grey?
No.
Wow.
I was gonna.
Let's not go there.
But anyway, we become more informed.
Like I didn't sign up for this.
We become
on board, Casey.
We've become more informed. We're able to see what's going on. We're able to see these videos we're able to read articles. We're able to get information from doctors every day.
All I was saying was not about the informed. I'm just saying that you can't live your life ignorant and then go, oh my goodness, and then blame that other person. You're part of this. You're part of the ignorance that is causing this to be culturally okay.
Did you also know that ignorance cannot be used as an excuse in a court of law?
I agree. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when somebody watches the video and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know this was happening." How did you think it was happening?
Exactly.
You didn't think about it.
Right.
You were completely fine with these bad men doing whatever they had to do to bring you this hamburger to your plate. That's to me is a little irresponsible.
And at one point, I've read this a while ago. At one point, being a butcher, actually, maybe it was even in Food Inc., which is like the most popular food movie documentary that we have or that we've had. Butchers in like the 50s, 60s, 40s, whatever. Being a butcher was like one of the most highly respected jobs.
Yeah.
Because that's people went to the butcher on the corner of their neighborhood, and they were friends with their butcher, and their butcher gave them fresh animals. And obviously now
the Brady's.
What?
The Brady's.
Yeah. Well,
Alice,
all of them.
she dated Sam the butcher.
Yeah.
See, now that's kind of what you're getting at, a focus on community and just getting like more involvement.
Yeah.
In a smaller
level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like even like how people have these cookie cutter neighborhoods, even in those homeowner associations, which are supposed to bring people together, even though they can be bougie, even those don't work. So you have people who take that initiative and trying to make it work on that level.
Right.
It's still not working because they're not reaching out for the family value. It's all about let's promote that we're cool neighborhood.
What do you mean, like a neighborhood that has like its own little shopping center in it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, not a shopping center, but you know how they have those neighborhoods where they have like a cookie cutter where all the houses look the same.
Yeah.
And everybody works the same type of job, and they all make the same kind of money.
They might have a community pool. And
they have like a community pool.
Yeah, but they're not self-sustaining. They're in no way working together. They're just kind of upholding an image that gets them there.
The better communities for the topic we're talking about are all the farmers markets and the CSAs,
exactly.
and these young people who are getting into farming, and I mean staying on the food topic, I guess, where people are raising animals ethically. And yes, if you do want to have meat, and you can know how it was raised, and you can know what it ate. Like Andrew, you've spoken before. You're considering doing that, where you buy like half of a steer or a quarter of a steer or whatever pig.
Well, we started buying local meat from. There's a local butcher that's in our area that it's all locally grown and stuff. So little by little, we're trying to move over to that because you have to be conscious of those things. I mean, you want to promote ethics as much as you can.
But and you can do that because you're aware, and all of us that are at this table are aware. But it's the cycle.
It's kind of your job to be aware of what you're doing in your life, though, isn't it? I mean,
just a responsibility.
It's your responsibility.
Of course, but when you don't know better, going back to the education part.
Yeah, but what do you mean you don't know better?
Going back to the education part, meaning that people that don't know better, that don't have the funds, or maybe they do have the funds, they don't realize that they can eat healthy, but they don't know any better than going to McDonald's.
Right.
They don't know any better than going to Subway or whatever.
But all it takes is one voice. It takes one person to tell them.
I understand.
You know what, man? Don't put that in your body.
Well,
but you have to offer them an alternative. You can't just say don't do that.
Or even, and this isn't happening. It might be happening in some inner city schools. I'm sure it is. I mean, you see stories all the time where there's teachers who are putting gardens maybe in the schoolyard, or in a park or something or just a community leader or community member where we're creating gardens and teaching kids like, hey, these are vegetables. I actually just saw a video. Actually, I sent it to you guys. Jamie Oliver, who I guess he had like some show on TV.
Yeah.
And he was like trying to educate people on food.
He was all about the McDonald's thing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was so anti-McDonald's.
Right.
He was trying to. He went into local schools and was teaching them how to create healthier meals.
Right.
And on budget. That was the extremely important part, because school systems will tell you, hey, we only get whatever number of thousands, that we can allocate per month or whatever for all these kids. So we have to use all this processed food, which we can spread out, to make sure everyone eats.
Right.
So he said, wait. I can take that same money and I can show you how you can make real food. And he was doing it. He was going school to school to school.
Right.
And for a while, it was effective.
You even have situations where if you have the cook, or the not cook, but like the person who's managing the school cafeteria or whatever, and they just put a garden. They start a garden in the schoolyard or whatever, and teachers use it to educate the kids. Or they bring them and they say, hey, make them a part of it. And granted, this stuff is happening in the suburbs and in places where they might have budgets or they have more educated people who are the leaders. But in places where it's low income and the education systems suck, it's not happening. But for it to happen, I think is part of this education and healthcare. It's all similar or in the same ballpark. But with the Jamie Oliver thing I sent you guys, he went to a school and was asking, he had like a table full of vegetables and was holding them up, and these kids had no idea what these vegetables were. They were like 6 years old. That's a crime.
It is. But you have to involve them. Like you were talking about the gardens. When you have kids involved, that's when they care. That's when they have some ownership. That's when they have some pride.
Yeah.
That's when they learn. Yeah. Just because you tell them something, they're not going to remember it. You know what I mean? You have to involve them.
Yeah. But again, I think it goes back to, it's your two topics, education and healthcare. You got to start at the bottom. You got to start at the low age and show kids like their options.
Mm-hmm.
There was a study that was conducted at the high schools in vending machines that they placed a normal vending machine of what it consisted with, and then they altered it and removed half of it and put healthier substitutes into it, and then based it off of price, where they had like a 10% markup, 25%, and then 30% on junk food, and then everything that was a healthier alternative was lower priced, and they kind of just left it the way that it was and watched it for a few weeks, and kids were more prone to choose everything that was a healthier alternative because of price. And then when they had moved it back to they switched it then after a few weeks, and then kind of put everything that was healthier at the same price points that the unhealthy food was, and then it kind of directly impacted it and went immediately back to them choosing unhealthier foods.
Yeah.
But I also think that schools and their different organizations get kickbacks through the vending companies, and which obviously then impacts that as well too, because what school is going to say, I'm low on funding and you're going to offer this certain amount of money to me, that they're going to turn it down to bring it into their school?
No, they're going to.
They are starting to do that now with inner city urban areas, and I know they're doing it here in Allentown with just community, not having to do with schools, but they're putting farmers markets. And Rodale Institute, which is right here by us, a couple towns over, part of like the Rodale company, they started community farmers market in downtown Allentown, and I think they have like subsidies and things like that where people can will get like discounts or whatever on farm fresh stuff, and just educating people and showing people how to make things and showing them, hey, you know what, people think healthy food is expensive, but you know what, it's not if you're not spending your money on other garbage.
You know what me and my wife always say? We say, spend it now or spend it later.
Right.
You can either spend your money now on healthier food now, or you can spend your money later on in your life through doctor bills and who knows whatever else
pills.
That goes into that.
Just one last thing and then I'll shut up. Have you guys heard of Ron Finley? He's the guerrilla gardener. Check out his TEDx talk. I saw it a while ago, but he's been pretty known out there because of his TED Talks, but he's a guerrilla gardener in South Central LA, and he was basically like, you know what, we need to
take back the landscape.
We need to take back, we need to take back our health. We need to take back our communities. And he just started putting up gardens in like empty lots in South Central LA, which is a horrible place. And he's a really popular guy.
But it's the best place out of all of them, because then they can self-sustain on their own. They don't have to worry about these supermarkets and grocery stores. They can actually plant their own crops and share them with their community. That's really important.
Well, yeah, that can be anywhere. That can be.
I think that's his model, right? Look, he's saying it should be everywhere.
Let's face it. It's not just in the low-income places and places that have like poverty. There's poverty everywhere. There's poverty in the suburbs. So I can't even make that point. But there are just places everywhere that people can do those things, and whether they choose to or not. But people from low income areas, urban areas, aren't shopping at Wegmans.
No, they're not.
So
because Wegmans is lying to you.
Why? What's Wegmans lying to you?
Aren't their prices all off? They were like jacking up the prices.
No,
that was Whole Foods. It's just my point of saying that people don't have
a lot of
option.
Wegmans stuff is actually cheaper
Wegmans,
than the other
changed
stores.
their way of doing things a few years ago. They actually are cheaper in a lot of ways than Giant.
Sometimes I usually price shop and when I'm in there, I look at what the prices are, or just kind of get a general idea, and with a family you got to kind of do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You have to be conscious of that.
We're all sensible, obviously, but it's just a shame that a lot of people just aren't.
But I think
it comes back to education.
Yeah, it comes back to education, but
that's why I brought all this stuff up. I'm
gonna go beyond the education, and I'm gonna say it's personal sovereignty. I think Marlena was in here and she was talking about this as her model for the anarchist kind of thing, where we get an idea of what anarchy is, and it's not necessarily that burning the place to the ground and everything. It's kind of just about owning the fact that you are the person that is affects the trajectory of your life, your decisions, and everything like that. So people need to take that into account and say, if it's not the way I want it, there are options out there in the world. You can't just wait for somebody else to tell you, or wait for your TV to tell you, or wait for the internet to tell you, because all those other people have agenda, and they're going to try to tell you what's best for them and try to get you on their side. You have to kind of look at it and say, I'm going to educate myself. You know what? Why do I feel like crap? Like JDubb was saying, well, I'm overweight. It's not just because of my family. It's probably because of what I'm putting in my mouth. I'm drinking this huge diet soda, which is full of chemicals and garbage. Just because it says diet doesn't mean that it's good for you. I'm drinking soda all day long.
That's the first 3 letters are die.
So yeah, you have to take some personal sovereignty and say, I need to take control of my life, and if I want to make change, I can do that. And a lot of people, unfortunately, aren't empowered.
They're not. So they need a voice. They need someone around who can encourage them and to give them that, come on, man, come on.
Yeah. But why is that? Why are we such followers? You know what I'm saying? And this comes down to a lot of the media, a lot of the racism, and all the stuff that's kind of permeated society. To bring everything full circle. Why is our community of people such followers?
I think part of it is you don't want to be shunned or ostracized. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you're going to go with that.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say I think it really comes down to a level of fear and in any type of Western culture, it's really kind of more of being a conformist versus being a nonconformist, and it's kind of like you're looked at as you're shunned and you're stigmatized of all these different things when you don't necessarily match up to the ideals of what Western culture looks for.
Yeah. Now you had mentioned Western culture. Khadija, what's your nationality?
I am Middle Eastern.
Okay, so you come from a very interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a perspective from, would you consider an Eastern? How would you consider? You said Western culture. What would you consider the opposite? Or maybe,
I think in general, I think in Western culture, what I mean by that is, in general, I think it's very individualistic.
No, that's not what I meant. Your perspective, would you consider Middle Eastern culture?
Mm-hmm.
So from that aspect, how does that oppose the Western culture idea of individuality and
It's completely opposite in a sense where, again, I feel like with Western culture, it's very individualistic, and you're kind of raised in the society to really be successful, and your parents kind of drive you into it. And I have a fusion of both, and I think that personally, for me, when I was younger, it was kind of like a division of not knowing which area to kind of lean towards. I come from a very big family. My mom is one of 8, my father is one of 8, so I kind of grew up from that, where it's very different in a sense that
it's more communal.
Absolutely, it's definitely more like the values that I was raised with and the beliefs that I was raised with is very much so to share it with everyone else and to kind of have a very mindful approach to everyone that's around you and to really care for your elders and everyone else and to kind of have that point of view versus this other point of view of kind of I found myself in the position of kind of going to a certain extent you really want to be an individual and follow these certain tracks, but then at the same time I find that with a lot of my friends and different things, like even in the sense of them going, I see my relatives once every 3 months, where for me I have family dinners every single week, and it is not anything that's like
right, exactly.
it's very uncommon for me to go, I haven't seen my cousins in 2 weeks or something like that, and I talk to my sister on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so so that was very I think a culture shock to me, where I'm a first generation American, so I grew up in northern New Jersey, so kind of going to school and seeing all these different things, and then kind of having, it's almost like this black and white type of a thing of going home and having one certain culture and then coming back and being fused in a different culture.
Yeah.
So to kind of find this middle ground, it took me a long time, honestly, to be able to do it, and I'm very happy that I was immersed in both areas of it, because I think it shaped me in different ways, where in both cultures I was able to kind of look at certain lessons that I was taught and be able to kind of
you have better perspective.
Absolutely, in a sense that
for choices.
To take the lessons that I've learned and to go, no, that really doesn't fit into this model of life that I believe in,
right.
in both sides of it.
Yeah, and I share your. I know Telly obviously comes from a very family centric kind of culture. My wife is first generation. She's from Poland, so I understand that they're a big family. We get together and there's constantly a family interaction and family gatherings and things like that. So. And that's one of the things that is very different about American culture. There's such a separatist kind of way of living. It's like you get to be 18 and you're out of the house. If you talk to most American cultures, they're like, you're out.
I would assume that promotes individualism. You were saying in the Western cultures, it's more. But then, wouldn't your leaders be more open or more able to succeed in this kind of culture?
What do you mean?
Well, you were wondering why we aren't more leaders than followers.
Yeah.
There's that aspect of failure or being shunned, but it seems like compared to an Eastern culture or a Middle Eastern culture, we'd have more leaders trying to come out.
Well, no, I think you'd have more of a communal relationship where everybody pulls their own weight. Everybody has something to bring to the table.
In the other cultures.
Yeah, versus one person is the voice and then everybody else just kind of gets in line behind that. You know what I mean?
Which is what we have.
Which is, I would say that there's very much of that.
I'm assuming everyone should try to be a leader then. In this society, everyone should want to be an individual and but we don't have that.
Personally, what I think too is I think that our generation, or specifically just in general, what I see is that no one has the ability to take criticism at all, and I think that that's such a huge problem, because whether it be positive or whether it be negative, you have to be able to take criticism to be able to move forward. And then we're kind of growing up, and I see, especially I have a lot of nieces and nephews and just cousins and different things of them coming home, and you're looking at other people and their friends, and it's always someone else's problem. So if you come home and you're saying, there's these things that are going on, and that person's a troll, they shouldn't have said this to you, and these things, and we're glorifying their actions and putting this responsibility on everyone else that's around them, rather than going, no, sometimes what you do sucks, it is. And and I think that there should be a nice way to say it, but realistically, how do you ever evolve as a person, whether it be professionally or personally, if you don't have the ability at all to look at anything that you're doing as negative? And and these are the people that we're kind of putting on these pedestals of going, I'm going to listen to you, and formulating all these different opinions. And what I find is that people that actually have a decent opinion and have something to say are generally more quiet because they're able to see all the consequences around them. Where someone who is batshit crazy is the first one to get on a mic and the first one to actually say something that holds no value to it. And then you have a lot of other people that are kind of going off of it too, off of that.
No, I think those are really, really good points, and I share your idea that we've gone so liberal that you can't say anything to anybody. You have to be worried about offending them because everybody's offended at the moment. I mean, whether it's valid or not, like you said, you can't criticize anybody. You can't criticize the way somebody thinks, the way they, But it also comes down to, in a lot of ways, communication. We don't have a good communication.
We don't.
So the reality is
that's parenting.
Well,
that's a lot of things.
Yeah,
that's a lot of things.
But I still say that starts at home too.
If you have a good communication, a good rapport with people, you're able to conversate and talk about things and say, hey, this isn't this. I don't agree with what you say. I don't agree with what you're doing. Or the other person can come back and tell you, I see this or that. You have the ability to grow together. Without communication, without a community aspect,
you have that.
There's a divide.
Friction.
Let me give you a couple really, really sad examples. All right, when I was a kid, my father pushed us. I have two brothers, one older, one younger. Mm-hmm. So he always wanted me to be at or more advanced than my older brother, and then the younger one to catch up with me or whatever. No matter despite the age difference. So he never ever told me. I'm looking you all in the face and tell you this. He's never said, "I'm proud of you." He's never said, "You're great." He hasn't. I'm 43. I've won championships in sports like all my life. He's never once, well, I'm not gonna say once. The last one he did say he was proud of me. He actually said, "Congratulations, champ." It took 43 years.
Yeah.
But my point is,
what did you have to do to get that?
We just won. I don't know. I didn't do anything. My point is, I didn't do anything different. I didn't do anything different than I had the previous 40 plus years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he always challenged us, which in some aspects was a good thing. But like she was saying, he taught us to accept criticism, how to take it, and that, just because someone's saying something bad to you, it doesn't mean that you absolutely suck, but at least hear it, And then the other side of it, I want to flip it for you. The parents of today, I always call them the modern parent. These modern parents irritate me because they coddle so many of these children today. And the problem that you have is
everybody
they
gets
tell
a medal.
their kids how great they are at everything.
Right.
Like, and it starts when they're babies. Now, this is not to go off on a tangent, but when you poop on your own for the first time, they celebrate, right?
Absolutely.
They do. They're like, "Oh my God, you went on the party."
Let me tell you.
Okay, so and that's where it starts.
Bobby has confetti party popper every time you.
You know what I mean?
Let me tell you.
That's where it starts. So
I celebrated that. It was like
So little Bill
more diapers, baby.
I sent you guys pictures.
He gets so he gets his first grade, his first day of school. Let's celebrate.
Yeah.
His first anything.
They have graduation.
How many graduations?
After every
exactly.
grade?
That's graduating pretty much everything. So that's where I'm going with this, is that we celebrate too much of the mundane. And we don't really. Then how are you supposed to celebrate when they really do something?
In sports, they
how
give kids
to appreciate
trophies just for participation and like medals and stuff. Like, who cares? Just the kids played. Let them.
Yeah.
Like 5 years old.
Well, in our leagues with the soccer and stuff, we don't have they don't keep score, so there's no it's not like a.
That's good.
It's 5 years old.
They're kind of just learning.
They know, and Drew, they know the score.
Oh, they know because I'm telling them the score. They know because I'm the head coach, and I'm telling them we're going to win this game today, and getting them all fired up. So they know. I mean, everybody knows, but they get the trophies at the end or the medals or whatever. And you know what I do is and this isn't all the kids like it. They want to get a medal. What I do is I make it a point to talk about what they excelled at in that season and say, this is your award for that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that way it's special to them, and every kid gets something different, even though they all got the same trophy or same medal. I think it's important to showcase what they did and why they deserve a medal, not
important.
like you said, everybody gets this canned, this canned medal, and like you were saying, Telly.
Like, all right, you have to be able to, again, each one teach one. There's certain themes you're going to hear with me over and over.
Yeah.
I was
JDubbisms.
I was coaching the kids. I want to say it's like in the mid 2000s. So we were in Northampton. I want to say it was 95-pound kids because they have the weight class thing. Long story short, there was one kid
football, right?
For football.
Yeah.
There was one kid named anyway. We'll call him Billy.
Yeah.
He was overweight. He was 5 pounds overweight.
Billy the Kid.
So they weren't going to let him.
Oh, JDubb, yeah, just pull the mic back. So
they weren't going to let him play the upcoming game because he was going to be 5 pounds overweight. So all that week, I talked to his parents. I said, listen, I know a little bit about nutrition. I was like, I don't want you starving your kid, but if you give him ABC and make sure that he's not getting the sugary sweets and stuff late at night, et cetera, like most kids do, I said he can get that 5 pounds off this week without you having to starve him. I was like, and also make sure he's here at practice every day this week.
Yeah, make sure he's here early so we can get the
sure
sweatsuit
enough,
on him and
we
run
got
him.
down to the games were on Saturdays. Friday came, he was 1 pound overweight.
Wow.
So you know what I did? Me and him, we ran all practice, and by the time we got around to towards the end of practice is 2 hours.
Yeah,
we didn't run it nonstop the whole time, but pretty much we did. By the time we got to the point where it was wrapping up, all those kids on the side were yelling, Billy.
Yeah, chanting.
Billy. It was so cool.
They got behind his cause.
They rallied behind him. He weighed in 1 pound underweight on the day of, and as soon as he got his weigh in, he wanted the hot dog. But my point was, he was on board.
He deserved that damn hot dog.
He wanted help.
Get that hot dog.
His parents were on board. Now he's
it's
15, 16 years old. This kid's healthier. He looks nothing like his parents. Again, you make the choice whether you want to give in to the whole, it's genetics thing or whatever.
I think there's a tiny bit of that genetics thing that's true, but at the same time, people have eaten unhealthy their entire life. Why would their kids suddenly eat healthy without any sort of knowledge?
Right, you're a product of your environment.
You are a product of the environment. There's no question.
Yeah.
But that was one of my, I like to speak on things that, if I can influence something in a good way, I like that. I like to see the fruit of the labor, so to speak, because it means nothing if I'm going to sit here and tell you all this stuff and then it has no impact. You know what I mean? But when you have just one success, it makes you feel like you did something.
It also pushes you down to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like you see the benefits of what you're doing, and that's important. Kind of keeps moving along.
Playing in my arena leagues, the kids want me to come out to their practices and hold camps and stuff like that for them. So I never say no. I just got to make it happen, put it into the schedule. I ask the coaches, like, what works good for you?
Yeah.
And then I have to check at home. I can't make that decision unilaterally. So I tell the wife, I tell the kids, I'm like, listen, I got to go to this camp on this week. And she's like, you're always doing something for somebody else. You know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like that's what I want to do and that I have to do. It's twofold.
If it's something that is your the problem comes in if it's you're doing it because of you feel obligated. But if you really want to do it, then I think that you're in the right headspace to be doing it.
And at the same time, you can't take away from contributing to your own household. You know what I mean? I don't want to neglect anything there.
Yeah.
Like. She has the running joke, Tracy. She has the running joke of, well, when you live with a contractor, whose house you think gets the least amount of work done?
Yeah, right.
It is true. Because, if the neighbor calls, they're paying me.
Yeah.
I stop everything I'm doing. I go fix their bathroom or whatever it is. But at my house, I got like spackle on the wall here and there and stuff. I hate to admit it. It is true. But
but you're also inundated with that all day or doing that stuff. It's like, do you really want to get
And then I have Tracy, who's always coming up with these home improvement ideas. So she's always wanting new pendant lights hanging and all this kind of stuff. So she knows I can do wiring. She knows I can do plumbing. So she's like, well, why don't we do this? So there's always
now I know
the ever-growing honey-do list. But I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but the point is I like to be there for people, and I think that's extremely important that you have someone who wants to do it versus somebody who feels like they have to do it. You know what I mean? It's like teachers, coaches, they feel like they have to. They're obligated. And a lot of them, they're miserable. They go to the bar, after the practice or after school is over, and they're sitting there. Those are the guys that are huddled up, and they're complaining about, that little Johnson kid is a pain in my ass. You know what I mean? And you don't want that. So if you don't want to do that, don't put yourself in that position. Go do something else. McDonald's is always hiring. UPS is always hiring.
Or just find a different hobby where you're not influencing children. Because
and you said coaches and teachers, and if it's teachers that are complaining, unfortunately,
I'll tell you,
they're the ones who are educating kids.
From an inside perspective on teaching, teachers get get brunt of a lot of crap. I mean, they have to deal with a lot of stuff, especially now in our current landscape. So I sympathize with teachers having to vent.
End of the school year, they are worried about whether they're going to have a job next year and whether they're going to be moved to a different school. And yeah, that's not easy, but it's important.
A friend of mine is a teacher, and she was just telling me a story about how one of her students kept their phone out and kept using it throughout the day, and that she took the phone away from the child and she put it in the desk and was like, I'm going to give it to the principal, and at the end of the day, you can come and get it. And then the child went home, and the parents came in, and they actually reprimanded the teacher, and it ended up being this huge thing because they were like, well, that's my child's property, so you had absolutely no right to take it. And the principal immediately took the parents' side, and it kind of absolutely, and it was kind of
they don't
like,
want a lawsuit.
You can ask them to put it away, but that's it. You can't do anything else.
Teachers don't have any rights. Teachers can't. They are really hamstrung by the way the system is, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, when we were kids,
I remember the paddle. You remember that?
I don't remember paddle, but I remember teachers jacking people up against lockers or like those kind of things. You know, back in the day, I remember I was in Catholic school. I got we legitimately had to worry about like getting cracked by like the ruler, or just like smacked in the back of the head or something like that. I mean, this is legitimate.
We had the whole dictionary.
Kid, you know,
they had a variety of punishments.
Yeah,
and you had to hold them up in front of the class so everyone could see you.
And sometimes you had to like hold books in the corner. You know what I'm talking about? Like
or that squatting position against the wall, where you just kind of got to like sit.
Now people do that for a workout now. You know
I guess
what I mean? It still sucks.
Is it better to have like you were talking about your father versus like where everyone gets a medal, like these two different, and then the school like. You have to now. It's like you have to baby them. Versus back then, you're getting hit. Like so, we're talking about it should be in the middle somewhere.
It should be
discipline.
Well, there should be accountability.
Accountability should be allowed. I think that's the best way to say it. It's not allowed. You have where they can't punch a teacher, but they can pretty much say anything they want to them.
But like
all the teacher can do is like write them up and send them to the principal's office.
There's a huge sense of entitlement.
Yeah, it is.
If we all feel at home, we all feel this way. Why is it different? Who's making the decisions to say no? Everyone gets a medal now.
Everything's a liability. I think that you're hurting
you're tearing them down.
Everyone gets a medal because parents want to coddle their kids.
Yes, that's what
James
it is.
Was saying.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to coddle them back in the day.
We got coddled, I'm sure, but I mean,
so is this just a natural part of this?
I don't actually. I guess it was. I think it was definitely more tough love.
For sure.
Absolutely, and I think that whether it be at school, whether it be in home life, whether anything else, I don't think that anyone was as afraid as they are today to be able to kind of put you in your place. Where now everything is again just a liability.
Yeah. When we were kids, though, the neighbors were looking out. They were like, "You better get in the house."
That's where I'm
going to tell your parents what you're up to. You know, you'd be like lighting firecrackers or something, you know, and like.
You know what the difference was then? You respected them.
Oh yeah.
Today, a little 8-year-old kid will curse you out, and he will tell you, "You're not my mom. Go bleep yourself."
Yeah. So we all think it's going the wrong way. That's basically
it is going the wrong way.
But then 20 years ago, or 50 years ago, everyone's like, these kids are going the wrong way. So isn't this just a natural progression that we're just going to
One of the pictures that I posted like a few weeks ago, it was like moms of the 1950s versus moms of today. Now, obviously, there's evolution. There should be somewhere in between. But the picture was moms in the 1950s. She has on like her skirt comes down like to her calves, and she's baking with the kid right there next to her. And then the mom today, the picture was her taking a selfie in her like her little underwear or something, and the kid's in the background. So somewhere in between.
I disapprove very much of this.
The funny shit is on Instagram where you see girls like posting pictures of themselves.
And then the background.
And then like 2 pictures prior to that, it's like of their kid.
Yeah.
Or like of them partying, and it's like, all right, this is how.
Like, what image are you trying to project here?
Yeah, I mean, it's not to pick on women, but
babies aren't sexy.
Yeah.
But it's true though. I mean, like.
Or someone want to celebrate the fact that they had kids.
One thing that's interesting about the picture, the dichotomy of that, is that you have the mother sharing something with their kid, and then you have the other situation where the parent is self-centered, taking this image of themselves or whatever it is. You know, obviously that's very much about the way our culture is. There's not as much sharing of like family type things,
neighborly things
with our children, with our neighbors,
people
whatever.
Don't talk to their neighbors.
People don't talk to them, and you know
I do.
I think that is we are kind of on a slippery slope right now, much more than we've ever been. You know, like we went back to we talked about the tough love and how it was different 20 years ago or whatever it was. But I think things are changing and not necessarily evolving into a good situation, but making us vulnerable to a lot of the things that we see that are coming down the pike that we're like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Well, it's because of the way the community is running and operating.
Let me tell you something that blows my mind. Again, I don't mind people know I'm 43. So when I
you don't look like 43. It looks like you and Telly jumped in that.
When I hold a door for a woman and she says, "My God, I thought chivalry was dead." I mean, with a genuine attitude, that tells you where we are.
You know what I do?
Especially
when it's older people and I'm holding the door open, or like a woman with a stroller or something like that. I always hold the door open for anybody, and they'll say thank you and like smile, whatever, and I say, yeah, believe it or not, there's still gentlemen in this world. I say that all the time.
So he makes you know it. He makes you know that.
It's
letting you know.
It's cool though when they acknowledge it. You know what I mean? In whatever capacity.
Look at my internet history.
Yeah.
But I think
welcome.
The opposite's true though too, because I generally am just friendly and outgoing to anyone that I meet, and immediately I'll find that men perceive it as me flirting with them or I'm into them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, within 30 seconds, there's a complete different
You're in an awkward
approach in the way that
situation,
they're speaking to me, and I'm like,
oh man.
And so it kind of like makes me feel like I have to be at a distance or present myself in a different manner.
Should have slammed the door on it.
Even just saying hi if you're going for a walk in your neighborhood.
Oh man!
And saying hi to somebody that you're walking past or riding your bike past them or whatever. I think we've lost a lot of that.
We have.
I don't know.
Humans look at the floor now. When they anticipate there's going to be eye contact from about 50 feet away, they do this.
I look at people just because of that.
I look at them.
Like, I look at them. I like make the eye contact.
I'll say
hello.
hello.
They're look down.
I look right at them like, hey, how are you?
I mean, you never know if you make
and then they have no
somebody's
choice
day.
but to respond.
You never know if you make someone's day by saying hi to them, or like, I don't know. It's sad that
there is a real awkwardness though when you like surprise somebody with a greeting. They're like they don't know how to respond because they weren't expecting to talk to anybody today.
What I also love doing is if there's like a kid with parents or with a parent and they do something like hold the door open for you, and I say, hey, I appreciate that, or you say to the parent like, hey, I appreciate that your son did that kind of thing. Because you have to show people, like, yeah, you know what? You are raising your kids well.
Yeah.
For them to do that.
And there's not enough of that going on.
But
the reality there are people out there. There's so many millions of people. There are people who are doing the right thing, but there's not enough people giving them the credit. That's important as well.
JDubb hitting the mic.
Yeah, punch the mic.
There's this book that I recently read. It's called Alone Together, and it's about how there's an increase in the quantity of communication, but a complete decrease in the quality of communication, and how it really touched on the whole neighborhood aspect of it too, and really playing it into how like the media feeds into this fear, and how it exposes all of these different things that you no longer. Because I remember as a kid, I would play outside until it got dark out, and that's how I knew when to come home.
Did your mom and dad scream out like your full name, like if you were out too long?
Absolutely.
That's how I got
but
yelled
the thing
at.
is, it's kind of like
Andrew Michael Kish the third. You better get in this. It was like the full. Everything, any possible part of the name.
But we couldn't get away with anything because we were so friendly with our neighbors that regardless, it was kind of this communication of them having that. Where now I think that that's completely gone. Absolutely, there is no such thing. And I know that even specifically me now, there's neighbors that I don't even know what their names are, and I've been living next door for years.
Yeah.
And I think that sucks. That's an injustice that we've created amongst ourselves.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that sometimes when you extend an olive branch to your neighbors, you'd be surprised at what happens. Like I helped one of my neighbors. He had his pickup truck and he was bringing in like a dishwasher, and I saw him bringing it in with his wife, and I was like, I was outside. I'm like, just ran over and was like, hey, let me help you with this. I mean, they were older couple, so it was like he obviously could use the help. So I ran over. I said, hey, let me help you. And the wife was, she was very, thankful. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And then we started talking, had a communication, and then like later on. This months later, I forget, I was doing something outside and moving like some pieces of fence and stuff that I was putting up in my yard, and he comes over and he's like, hey, you need a hand? Because like me, JDubb probably knows this very well, like I'll pretty much do everything myself, and I don't really ask anybody.
Yeah,
like I don't really. I'm like, oh, this huge 6-foot picket fence.
I got this.
like trying to lift it up myself and wobbling around.
What if the guy helps you and then all of a sudden hits his thumb, and he's like, "Oh man," and then tries to get money out of you. You're not worried.
Well,
about
I guess
that.
I guess I got to pay him then. I don't know.
I'm coming. I'll be over next week.
Yeah. No, you can't. You're already. That's a pre-existing injury, pal.
Oh man, Obama. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, you can't. There's already documented X-rays about that bad boy.
God dang it.
You're not going to extort any money from my homeowner's insurance.
I'm about to get paid. All right.
I'll make sure you help me in the street. Because there's no way to. What are you going to do?
Not on the property.
Not on my property.
Not to change the subject.
We don't even really own our property. I went through a whole thing with like zoning type stuff, and it's amazing how they extort money from you. You
don't own it.
It's like, you want to put up a bigger piece of fence? Are you taking the old piece of fence down?
Yeah.
Well, that's new construction.
Yep.
It's like, what are you talking about? There's still
permits.
Yeah, you can't put paver stones in without a permit. Blah blah blah. Anyway,
you just got whatever they did to you recently with whatever you're doing.
I got it all squared away, but the point is, you don't really own what you own. What you think you own.
To turn your yard into a giant ball pit. Like that would be.
I don't think so. That would probably be considered temporary, a temporary structure. So I think you'd probably be all right, as long as
all slip and slides.
Jello wrestling.
I think that your homeowner's insurance might drop you, but I don't think that you'd have any issues with permit.
Not to change the subject, but there was a couple things I wanted to bring up. If you guys don't mind.
I actually wanted to keep talking about the slip and slides, but I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Just things that I think might interest us.
Who was the author of the book? Before you get on that, who was the author of the book? It was Alone Together. Do you know the author?
I'll look it up real quick.
It's not a. We can figure that out, but we'll throw a little.
You can chime in when you find it.
There's 2 new shows that caught my attention. I think I may have shared them with you guys, but I finally, not finally, but I got a chance to watch them because
the Dukes of Hazzard,
Cake Boss.
Yeah, no, they both just started like within the past couple weeks.
Did you say Cake Boss?
Yeah, I said Cake Boss.
All right, I'm interrupting. Sherry Turkle, Turkle.
KLE. And how do you say? Is it Sherry with an S?
Yes.
Sherry with a Y or an I?
A Y.
A Y. So SH, like the cooking.
Sherry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like
there you go.
We got
How does it go again?
The 4 seasons. What?
We got a show going. We got a.
Is
it the 4 seasons or is it Frankie Valley?
I thought it was Frankie Valley.
I thought it was Frankie Valley.
I don't know.
I think it's Frankie Valley actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
4 seasons.
Whatever. Close enough.
Isn't that a hotel?
The 4 Seasons? Yeah. Well.
Anyway, so there's 2 new awesome shows. The first one is on
True
AMC. Well, True Detective is not new though, but True Detective
new
has
season.
started, and
I just watched the second episode.
Yeah.
Have you seen Humans?
I think I'm gonna hold off.
Yeah, Bobby's gonna hold off.
I'm not gonna say anything.
We can't
No
talk about
spoilers.
it yet.
But I think you're gonna like it.
Then I'll have this one.
A lot of people.
I'm gonna come watch it with you.
A lot of people. The feedback that I've been seeing on Facebook from people is like people are not feeling it. But
I don't like Vince Vaughn's character.
Regardless, so on AMC, there's this show called Humans.
I love it.
You saw it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's only 1 episode so far. Yeah, but it's a British show. Number 1. I guess it's set in Britain. I don't know, but it's definitely British actors, and it's essentially about a family it's in a time period where people can have personal robots or AI. And I mean, they look like humans, but they're personal AI. So they're at their home, they're doing stuff for in their houses, going to the store with them.
I'm just thinking about where the show's gonna eventually.
Sexy territory.
Yeah, if they don't, then they're not.
Well, no,
there was a scene.
Yeah, there was a scene.
There would have to be.
There was a scene, but
if you guys have seen Ex Machina,
yeah,
and you see the version of the what are they, androids? Is that what you call them?
Well, sure.
Did you see Ex
There's
Machina?
No possible way.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to see it. Actually, it's out already. I think on digitally. But anyway, so this show has a lot of like branches, as most shows do, but it stems around the family that the husband basically surprised. Not to spoil it, but the husband basically surprised his wife that they got one. There was this robot
like
girl.
Yeah, she was against it. Like
she
was.
She was against it. But anyway, and there's a lot of like, side stories, like I said, regarding it, and it's really interesting. It's only 1 episode. When this podcast gets out, it'll already be like 2 or 3, at least 3 episodes in. But definitely recommend watching it. I said it's on AMC. It's on Sunday nights, I believe. The other show, which I don't know, you probably saw this too, is Mr. Robot on USA. It's on USA, which is really weird, but.
Telly, I'm concerned about your watching habits.
No, first of all, who's watching USA?
I'm concerned about the fact. I think you've since Ex Machina. You have gone into the deep end, man. Into the AI.
Two words: Battlestar Galactica.
Since the podcast started, like when we started this whole thing, I told you guys I don't watch much TV unless it's like sports or like just cool documentaries or the occasional True Detective or whatever.
Shark Week starting soon?
I don't know.
Let's not talk about sharks.
But
fucking monsters.
But
monsters of the sea are chewing on people.
It seems like all these cool shows are popping up, but no, it's cool. I mean, I'll make the time to watch some of these shows on.
Well, while you're looking for new shows, there's one that came on last night called Extant, EXTANT. It's Halle Berry.
Oh, I saw you comment about that. Yeah.
So apparently she's an astronaut, and of course it takes place in the future.
That's about as believable as Sandra Bullock as an astronaut.
Hey, man. It's a TV show.
What channel is it on?
I want to say CBS.
Okay.
I say the only reason I say that is because I know that my other half watches CBS all the time, and it just happened to be on that network, so I'm sure it was CBS.
Yeah.
But the gist of it is you can create what they call they had a word for it, but basically you can create kids. And, they create it in a lab. And it's part android and part human because you get tissue and stuff that's donated from the parents.
The traditional way of creating
they just create
way more fun.
And it grows pretty quickly. And then you can formulate its personality and stuff to a point, and then it develops on its own. So long story short, they created this kid, and things started to happen that they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's going to be crazy. It's a series. So I think last night was the first night for that. So it's called Extant. Cool. So that's one worth checking out as well.
No,
is he like a creepy kid that like stares like, when they ask him questions, he like stares at them?
It was actually 2. So one kid's like the good kid, and the other one was the one you're talking about.
He's like
doesn't talk,
possessed
doesn't
child.
talk much, and then there's like the scene where when no one's in the room, his eyes light up and stuff.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah.
That's different than I thought. I thought he was gonna be go down one of those like the Omen type.
Well,
stuff.
he could like do one of those fire starter type things.
Oh,
like
that's true. Yeah.
No, Mr. Robot has nothing to do with AI, but it's an awesome show. And when I watched the trailer for it, it did not look like something that would be on USA. And my theory is, which I think is more than a theory, all these networks realize the disruption of media that things like Netflix and even like HBO, which is now doing a lot of original programming, or is getting more in depth with their original programming,
stepping up their game,
and Vice and things like that. Yeah, these networks realize they have to step their game up and get some things that are interesting. But so Mr. Robot, before you judge it, it actually I saw that it won awards at South by Southwest and I think at Sundance or one of the other big festivals. It won like audience awards and some other awards. Essentially, it's about a kid who, during the day, is a programmer for one of the big, for a big tech security company. So they basically like get hired by companies to do security for their businesses. And at night, he's a hacker. It has everything to do with all the technology, all just a character building. It's a very, very, very cool show, and I actually just watched the second episode last night. So anyway, it's on USA. I think it's on Wednesday nights. I watched the second episode last night after it was shown at 11 or midnight or whatever. But I think it's on Wednesdays at like 10. But yeah, that gets the Greeks thumbs up.
Well, there's a show that I haven't seen, and it's kind of on purpose. It's called Blackish. And,
I saw the commercials on Hulu,
Anthony
and
Anderson
it made me groan every time.
And Tracy Ellis Ross. They're the parents, and they live in like a suburban neighborhood where it's primarily white, and they're the black family in the neighborhood. And I guess they're trying to blend in and make sure that they assimilate, so to speak. So there's the conforming, like we've been talking about, and then there's the every now and then I guess some blackishness comes out.
What kept you from watching it? You just didn't want to...
Well, first of all, I think that the name is stupid. They could have called it anything else. You know what I mean? It could have been called...
You can't judge it by the name.
Well, let me ask you, though. If they came out with a show called Whitish...
I wouldn't be interested in that either.
But no, I'm saying, can you imagine the backlash of that? You know what I mean? Like, that would be ridiculous.
I can't believe Blackish passed as a name. You know what I mean? Especially in these sensitive times.
I think every other show is already Whitish, so they don't have to... just putting a title on it. Yeah.
Whitish is in parentheses behind every other show.
We got one show. You got to watch it, man. We only got one.
Only got one.
We have real stuff happening.
Have Meet the Browns or something?
So let me ask you guys. Obviously, Casey, you've seen it?
Yes.
You watched the show?
I've never seen it.
Is it good? Is it good? Is it a good show?
Yeah. I think...
It seems to me, though, I've watched some of those shows, and it seems to me as though there's like a white... like version
veneer
there's like a white executive that's like wants this show to be all the stereotypes of like a black family. Does that make sense? It seems like it's not even sincerely written by somebody within that culture. It
could be.
You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's somebody that's writing it that's just pulling from anything that they've seen or heard.
I think it's more him and his family trying to deal with where they live.
Oh, okay.
So once they get back in home, there's a lot of jokes dealing with that.
Oh, okay. So it's like a Jeffersons, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like a modern Jeffersons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're interacting. They're interacting with. They show them interacting with their neighbors, I guess.
Yeah, sure. It's not like the neighbors are big. I've only seen like a couple episodes just because TV. I might get rid of TV. But
what do you mean get rid of TV? What about Netflix?
No.
Well, I think it's like network.
No, commercials and
Why do they always do that? Why do they always put like a black family in a white community? Like, why is that always the thing?
I think if it's in a black community, it won't get enough money behind it to do well. I don't think enough people will watch it.
I guess then it would be nothing but a lot of it would be supporting more of the stereotypes.
Yeah,
and they would look at it as something that was more like negative, as opposed to remember the Cosby Show that was wholesome. You know, you had a bunch of kids who were going through normal stuff. Yeah. Well, we don't want to go off on a tangent on that.
Behind the scenes,
but you had the Cosby Show.
Every time Bill Cosby goes to the fridge, we're like, don't pour that glass. Don't drink that milk. Don't drink that milk.
Well, I think they had a nice crossover appeal, right?
Right. That was the whole point behind
Blackish
it.
Has
to show that they have successful parents. You know what I mean? A doctor and a lawyer. Who could also raise their children and with normal everyday issues, and they just happen to be black. So I think that was what they were trying to, pollute the airways with, and it worked. We bought it. Yeah. Everyone loved the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, but it just polluted. You didn't like the Fresh Prince?
It was all right. It was entertaining. I mean, it had its episodes where it was, they tried to get a little more sensitive, like the episode where his father came, remember? And then he didn't want no parts of him. He thought he was leaving with his father.
Yeah.
And his father told Uncle Phil, like, look, just tell him, man, I had to go.
I think I got teary-eyed.
We didn't have like a billion channels and Netflix. And
we did not.
Well, maybe HBO was around back then. So I mean, we look at a lot of the shows, even like Dukes of Hazzard we talked about, and some of these other like cult shows. They were not influential, but they are like things that are still not relevant, but they're still like people enjoy them, as opposed to now where we got choices of thousands of things on our TV every single night.
Yeah, but most of it's reality TV.
I've been crushing Friends episodes like no one's business lately.
Friends is a good show.
I don't know why.
What if
was it because I brought Jennifer Aniston up like in an episode a while ago?
What if
why I brought her up?
She's like 50.
I've never liked her.
She looks great.
Who's TV Land owned by? Do we know who that is?
No idea.
Are they the same? Are they the same company that owns the rights to Dukes of Hazzard? Because I was just thinking about as we're talking, maybe they took it off the air to create a buzz about it. So then, because their DVD sales are probably skyrocketing right now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're probably like, oh, I can't watch it on TV now, so I'm buying seasons. I'm buying all 3 seasons of Dukes of Hazzard.
Hey, you know what? It's getting people to.
Because how many was there? I mean, really.
We're talking about it. It's working.
It's called disruptive marketing. That's what I said before about disruption. And
what should we do? Let's who can we kick off the show and then make it a ploy and then bring them back?
I've been thinking about things that we can do to generate, buzz with the podcast because my friend Jeff, the one who works at Microsoft or whatever, that's from Bethlehem, his podcast is about it's called Disruptive something, but he talks about things that have disrupted media over time. So, example, MP3s disrupted the CD industry, and he gives a lot of other examples about disruption. But there you go. It's disruptive marketing. There's things happening like this all the time where it's just people are just putting things out there and they're making people grabbing attention. So if they're grabbing attention for Dukes of Hazzard, you're going to see the sales skyrocket.
Yep.
Or when something happens with some musician that no one knows about or that hasn't been relevant in a long time, and all of a sudden they're part of some controversy with some rap star or something like that. You see this older person's sales skyrocket.
It's really gross. It's gross that they capitalize on situations which are close to home for a lot of people, and they take a symbol that either is racism for somebody or it's about somebody's Southern pride or whatever that flag could be about to people that it's important to. And they take that and they capitalize on it. And I think that's part of that. To me, that's even worse than. Like we were talking about the factory farming, that's kind of in the same line of that. It's like you're playing with people's, morality.
It's like when 9/11 happened. People that made flags got dollar signs in their eyes, probably.
Well,
sure,
hey, there's so many examples of it. How about when
it's the same with war? It's like
people
you go to war and make all this money and people are dying. It's horrible.
Thing. Not to get on the cancer thing again, but people are using a good cause, or that's supposed to be a good cause, and putting pink ribbons on Kentucky Fried Chicken and baskets and whatever else.
Hey, what was the scandal about the Facebook thing with the rainbow? What was the scandal about that? I saw something.
They were saying that Why? Facebook suckered people in as like an experiment. About changing their profiles with the rainbow thing, and it was basically just a ploy put out by Facebook because when things like that happen, you wonder, how did that start?
Right.
It went viral somehow, obviously, but they said that it was a thing that was measured by Facebook to see how
influential people are.
Things are.
I changed my profile pic for no one.
Oh, that too. How long would it take them to go back?
I only changed my profile pic for a sweet pic that Bobby took of me.
Glad you like anytime you look better in a new picture. Anytime you get a better
Bobby's going to get another picture of me in here doing some goofy stuff, and I'm going to put that up on. That's going to be my profile pic.
So TV Land is owned by Viacom or Viacom.
Boom.
They own MTV, VH1, CMT, Nickelodeon, and all the Nickelodeon stuff.
They probably own the rights to Dukes of Hazzard.
They're going to cash in.
They're going to cash in. Yep, you take those chips to the counter and cash out, baby.
On the surface, it looks great, what they did or whatever. Again, I don't agree with it, but it looks like they took a stand of some kind. So, and then in the back door, they're making
that movie
money.
Version that came out a few years ago with Johnny Knoxville, do they have the Confederate flag on it?
Probably. It's the General Lee.
Yeah. There was no reason not to.
The name of the car is the General Lee. It's obviously talking about the Civil War. Right. You know what I mean? If you're going to take the craziest was
there backlash when that movie came out? Probably on the down low. But
I had backlash about it because the movie sucked.
Yeah, because the movie's garbage.
It was horrible.
It was
like Starsky and Hutch. It was a cop dramatic series. You can't turn that into a comedy.
Girl,
Jessica Simpson.
Yeah.
Oh right. Yeah.
Yeah, remember her father said she had nice boobs. That's disgusting.
That's weird. That's good.
My dad tells me I have nice boobs.
Weird. What's that?
Is that weird?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Next episode, we talk about Bobby's weird childhood.
But yeah, I mean that's
that'll be a dark episode. We'll have Braden in for that too.
A shitload of buzz about that show now, but younger people that had no idea that the show even existed are probably like, oh, what is this Dukes of Hazzard show?
Yeah.
I mean,
Watch it and turn it off immediately.
Well, maybe.
No way. The song.
Kids today.
No, they would. You don't think so? That opening scene where they're
the cars jump the ramp.
Yeah, they jump the ramps.
They have
and
now
stuff?
with cars in it. They'd look at that.
The cops could never catch those guys.
The cops always crashed.
What was the guy's? What was the?
It was Roscoe P. Coltrane.
And
his sidekick's name was Enos.
Yeah.
I never watched an episode of that show.
Me neither.
What was the
see, that's
what was the name of the dog?
The dog?
Yeah, what was the dog's name?
It had like floppy ears.
I'm gonna buy the DVD and find out.
Flash.
Flash. You're right. You are right. It was. Wow. How did you? Wow.
I don't know where that came from.
Roscoe was the Roscoe. Yeah, he pulled up at it.
We had a lot of good shows when we were kids. Even like A-Team.
A-Team, I love that.
Nobody ever got
everything
shot
in this room. They can take the stuff in this room and
laughing
make some contraption out of it.
Well, no, and MacGyver.
MacGyver.
These old guys talking
a bottle of water, a paperclip, and a piece of gum.
Knight Rider, Airwolf.
They are very old.
I mean,
Knight Rider and Airwolf.
Yeah.
I watched Airwolf.
Magnum P.I.
Yeah, that was a. I didn't really.
It was the
get
first
into
show
that.
about a guy talking to himself.
Yeah, Magnum P.I.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good, shows.
With a classic mustache.
Yeah.
He's still around. He's on that show now, Blue Bloods. He's the police commissioner.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
He still have the stash.
Yeah, still has the stash.
He's got it.
And his hair still the same.
He's got it.
Not one strand of gray, and it's still full head of hair.
3 Men and a Baby.
He's also in Friends, isn't he? I think he has a cameo in Friends or something like that, right?
He was dating Monica for a little while.
Yeah. There you go. So this was the TV episode. We dived in. We dove in deep into the sitcom world of the 80s.
I still
and 90s, I guess.
As much as when I said USA and you guys were like, "Why are you watching USA?" But I still stick to the theory that with things like Netflix,
with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
which is the same thing too.
Were you gonna say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be quick, man.
It fits in with what he's saying.
Yeah,
it fits in perfect. I was just thinking, with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben was right.
You watched USA Up All Night.
Yeah,
I remember USA Up All Night. I remember that. Yeah.
How do you know Rhonda Shear but not know any of those shows they named? You're older than I thought.
No.
You don't know any of the shows?
She's from like the 80s.
Bobby's lying for dramatic effect. He's just denying that he knows what the shows are.
I remember you step on like Monster Vision, TNT.
So I guess before we shut this thing down, I wanted to just get an idea of I guess Casey and JDubb, what you guys kind of opinion of the current landscape is. We were talking about like from
all right, two black guys. Let's see what the black guys have to say.
Well, okay,
finally
so
valuable.
I can't. We only can have an opinion about the current. The way culture is going right now, and the way there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of issues with the police and stuff like that. I mean, do you guys see it and feel it like in a very real way, or is it just something that you kind of get from the media? I mean, that's a hard way to bring that up, but I was curious if what the blowback is for you guys.
Yeah, I was going to point to you because I'm like,
it's
almost like your opinion is more important than mine in a way.
Yeah,
because I could sit here and say what I think, but I don't know what it means to you to hear it from me. I think it's more important to hear what you think. Like, you should be more concerned with how that makes you feel than how I feel about it.
I think I'm more concerned about like the way you guys things that you have to deal with, because it helps us to understand the situation, because we can't put ourselves in your shoes. There's no possible way
for you to understand.
For me to understand, because you're dealing with prejudices and Khadija, you're probably dealing with being a woman and being not being a white woman. Mm-hmm. That you're dealing with all those things as well. So I was curious, as somebody that would be considered a minority in our culture, or I guess in America, what kind of are you dealing with? A lot of the things that we're seeing on the news as far as racism is concerned, or is that?
Me, it's not.
Let me give you something that
I mean, obviously you are. But
it took me years to realize it, because sometimes you can get like backdoored or low under the table.
That's
racism.
a different conversation, I think.
But
it's at the right show though.
Nothing racist about that.
So I was supervising a call center like in I want to say early 2000s, and if a call needed to be escalated, I was that person that stepped in. I was like, trying to diffuse the situation.
The best job in the world.
No. So anyway,
they shut people down with a phone. You kidding me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the lady didn't like what my CSR was telling her, and it was about her bank account. It's black and white. This is what happened. These are your transactions. She didn't like it, so I had to get on there and diffuse it. So I took a very calm approach, very much speaking pretty much the same tone that I am now, and I explained the situation to her using JDubb terms, and by the time the conversation was over,
JDubbisms.
She said to me, "You know what? I'm very thankful that you're able to make me understand." She said, "Just this long list of compliments, right?" She's just blowing all the stuff up my pant leg.
Yeah.
And then she messed it up. She closed out by saying, "You're very well spoken." She said, "By chance, are you African American?"
You should have said no.
And I said
woman.
yes. And she said, "How?" She said, "But you're very well spoken."
Yeah. Ooh. Yep. There's always a caveat, like there's something added to that.
That was unnecessary. It was totally unnecessary, and
that's horrible.
Like I said, it took me a little while for that to sink in. Like when she said it, I was still like high from kicking her butt, basically.
Yeah.
I felt like I won. I didn't care, but I went back to my desk and I sat there for a little while. It took a little while for it to sink in, and I realized I had been insulted.
Yeah, and insulted,
and it bothered me.
But insulted from it's almost worse from when it comes from like nonchalant, almost like it's like people feel okay to say something like that. Like it's culturally
it's
okay.
Worse than when it's mean-spirited because they're just ignorant.
Yeah, and they could just be saying something out of anger and just insulting somebody. I mean, there's assholes everywhere, right?
Right.
But this lady actually feels like she can say that, and she even said it in a way that was almost like a compliment.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I mean?
You know what? Honestly, I think that's what she meant.
That's what I'm saying.
She was trying to.
She's so
trying to compliment me.
She's so ignorant.
She's so well.
That made it bad.
Yeah, like patting you on the head, like you're doing well for yourself, and it's like that's outrageous, man. I feel for you. That's an issue that I think you make a good point, because that's an issue I think that is a big problem, because it's that kind of weird, bigotous kind of
insensitivity. Those old white ladies will die off soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you know what, man? Listen, I would agree with you, but then I see it in politics. It's being passed now.
It is being passed down.
Not to that extent, though. That's an old white lady thing to say.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, because I can tell you that specifically.
Really?
Oh my God, specifically.
Jump in on that. Pull that mic.
Even me
to the
specifically, and I'm going to say that so obviously I'm Middle Eastern, and I'm not religious by any means, but I was raised in a Muslim household, and my entire family is pretty religious still, and it's funny because I think that obviously culture dictates a certain portion of it, and then obviously the actual religious beliefs another. And as you can imagine, obviously I'm on the hot seat a lot of times, whether I want to be or not, and I just little things like he was kind of saying, and I had this conversation with Bobby just like a few months ago, that a friend of mine, her fiance had said something to me, and she's like, "Oh, he really loves you. He loves you because you're not a typical Muslim."
Wow.
And I remember having this conversation and just feeling like it was the biggest slap in the face to me, because this was someone who was so incredibly submerged into my family, and and obviously saw the realities of it in a sense of someone who practices it for what it actually is versus all the media depictions and all these different things. And about a year ago, I was driving I had a meeting, and I was driving towards central Pennsylvania, and I had stopped at a CVS just to kind of get something. And when I had stopped in, I was like near the pharmacy area, and I just heard someone yelling, like someone, I would probably say in their 30s. He was no older than in their 30s, and it was like, yeah, and these, am I allowed to curse? But like, oh, these motherfuckers, these fuckers have to go back to their country, and da-da-da. And I'm literally looking around because I'm like, who the fuck's he talking? And then I realized he's literally talking about me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, he's actually talking. And I've never kind of had that experience happen, that I was like in shell shock, that I'm like, where the fuck you want me to go back to, New Jersey? Because I honestly don't know like what we're doing here, because like don't send me back to that.
There's some people from Jersey that
I've used that. I was like, I'll gladly move back to Baltimore.
And just little things like that, or as even a perfect example, when I was applying to grad schools and stuff, I had went to like a mentor of mine and had had a conversation who, he's a professor, and I sat him down with this essay, and my essay was very, very controversial. It was the kind of my ideas post 9/11, and kind of like I wrote all about my experiences and all these different things and these different avenues, and kind of what sparked, a drive that was within me, because a lot of the reason that I got into going specifically into psychology was to deal with stigma and on a racial basis and all these other things, personally and professionally. And I had said to him, I want you to read this, but at the same time, I'm not naive enough to believe that you have no idea who's receiving it on the other end, to understand
Bobby, can you move that mic just a little bit closer?
Whether to believe that they're going to put their personal opinion into it, or whether they're going to, because at the end of the day, everyone has different judgments. And so he had said to me something that struck me very that really hit me, that still does. And he said to me, when you're applying to these grad schools, he said, absolutely, be as diverse as possible, and I think your essay is excellent. But the second that you're done with school, he goes, you need to eliminate that, and then definitely be able to, scale that back and try to come into the norm of it. And that was the reality, because I think that it's very funny, and to other people, they kind of don't realize it, but every application I've ever filled, everything like that, there's absolutely no subject for my ethnicity. I have to be put as white. So everything that I fill out as white, and it's kind of like
there's no other.
There is no other. So like with college graduate, I mean, obviously, I think
to be other.
Well,
that sounds like.
But I think just
no. I'm not saying that you said that. I'm just saying, can you imagine that? Like.
But in general, like I think that
I
just laugh, because I'm like, you have all these different these different things that get hit at you, and at the same time, it's like, you're trying to find this little box, and whether it be job applications, my college applications, everything like that, predominantly, that's it. You fall into this certain category, and I'm like, well, I'd like the perks that come with that category.
Why don't they just do away with that? Why do we need that?
It is not working.
We just need it for demographics.
The funniest shit.
It's ridiculous. Can it just be like human being? Check.
The funniest shit is when people are like.
There should be an asshole or not asshole checkbox. Do you know what I'm saying?
Then I'd be like, does that mean I have one or I don't have one?
Yeah, that's true.
But I think that specifically, I get more outraged when it's someone else, because I have a pretty raw sense of humor, and I can really laugh things off. Specifically when it comes to these things, I generally don't go. But I think it depends on the person who's saying it. Like someone who, as an example, in the CVS that I was at, there's no way in hell I was getting into a confrontation with someone like that, because you can't. And it's almost like it just turns into like a fear zone of kind of feeling like protected. Where someone else, I very much so love when someone has a conversation with me, and I think that uncomfortable conversation leads to any type of change and positive pro-social behaviors. But other than that, when you're being quiet and when you have these judgments and you have all these things, that you're creating that upon yourself, and you're really adding into the stigma versus vice versa. And the funny thing is about stereotypes is I had this class where I learned all these different things, and it struck me, because I'm like, the stereotypes that you wouldn't even think about that you're doing, that I'm like, I was victim to, I did this. As an example, they brought up that one of the biggest stereotypes for Asians specifically that they say that they find in therapy is that people find them to be very intelligent. So in school systems and different things like that, when you're going to group projects, you're going right away going, I want to be with her, I want to be with him, because of these things, and not realizing that as something as small as that, I never put it in my head to be, I didn't realize how stereotypical that is, to kind of understand that and to go, well, I have deemed you as someone who's intelligent or smart because of this, and realistically, they're kind of having this backlash of going, you expect me to be this certain way, and maybe I'm not as academically,
right. They may not be as smart as what you allude to. So
absolutely, or whether you're even driving and you see someone who's African American and lock your door or whatever it is from the inside in, and you kind of hear it.
You've locked your door, or
no? I pulled up next to someone, and the lady, you can see them, lock the door.
Do they make eye contact the whole time, like?
No. They're never going to make eye contact. Those people that are locking the door,
and you can tell them when they're feeling for it. They're trying to
on the other,
you can tell.
It sucks because there are a lot of people that do that, but at the same time, it's you get in a situation like that, it could be anybody. And some people could just want to be protective.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can sense it, you sense it. And obviously, I'm not demeaning any of that. But I'm saying in general, it's like, I think I was talking about this before we recorded tonight, or I brought it up. I mean, a bad person is just a bad person.
Agreed. 100%.
You know, and if you're a white person and you don't think that a black person is a good person, you're going to just stay away from them. But if they're a good person, like I'm sitting here with two great black people, and I love you dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you get in a situation where it's touchy when you don't want to involve yourself with somebody who's not your race, right, or not your preference or not your preference, your same demographic, no matter what it is, religion or whatever. If they're good people and you want to spend time with them, it's cool, but it's just it's really touchy when you're like, you're not a good person, or you're not the type of person that I really want to associate myself with, and then you get nailed for, you're anti this, you're anti that, and that's a really touchy line, and it just sucks in my opinion. But that's the world we live in.
Well, let me let you in on something else. I give a lot of the credit of who I am to my father, and I mean that's not to take anything away from my mother or anyone else, but he's the biggest influence on my existence. And part of it was he instilled education and also exercise. He said those are the two things. You have to have a strong mind and a strong body. He said not everybody can have both, so you always want to make sure you have one or the other. And he said that there's different levels of intelligence. And we actually went through a seminar for this, so kind of try to follow me as I go through it kind of quickly. He said there's different levels of intelligence. You start out by being unconsciously incompetent. It means that you don't know that you don't know. Mm-hmm. So the next level would be conscious incompetence. So now I know what I don't know. Mm-hmm. So then you want to get to conscious competence. And then the ultimate level is unconscious competence. It's like, damn, I didn't know I knew that. So you go through all those levels in your life. When you get to that point of the unconscious competence, you've succeeded, overall.
You burst into pure
you've gotten
energy.
somewhere. With all that being said, I've worked in different places, usually thrust into a leadership role whether I wanted it or not. And sometimes I'll be asked something like, hey, James, why don't you go talk to them? I'm like, for what? Because you speak their language. So, again, it's like the backdoor kind of compliment, but I understand what they meant. You know what I mean? I don't come off as the, yo, what up, dog? And, let me holler at you for a second. You know what I mean? I can do that with my people. There's a time and a place for everything. Yeah. But when you're in a professional environment, you want to carry yourself in that manner.
Well, it's also like, I mean, you're not going to talk the same way you do with your buddies as you are with people in a professional environment. It doesn't matter what your slang is or whatever it is, And
it brings me right back to it starts at home. Because my parents always try to tell us that you're not going to come out here. They refer to it as being a yo boy. And a yo boy is a guy who stands on the corner all day with his hand on his crotch, yo this, yo that. And my grandmother was one of the people who always said something about that too. She's like, you have a name. That person has a name. Don't call anyone yo.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it goes right back to the roots. But of course, when I was with my friends, we knew every slang word. We used to create words.
Yeah.
And so again, my upbringing is extremely important. That's why I keep referencing that, as we go forward. Because if you don't instill positivity and structure into your children, today, then tomorrow, where are they going to be?
Yeah, and that education is, goes back to those, like your grandmother and your family, your father. They lived through times that are much different. I mean, much worse than what we had to deal with, what we're dealing with now. I mean, it seems as though we're kind of tilting back in a weird way, but they fought the fight. You know what I mean? They fought for equality. They fought alongside the Martin Luther Kings and those people that were putting themselves out there to really just not just for racism, but about human dignity and like saying that we are all equal. For women as well and all those different things. And I think that they have a different perspective. So instilling that in you is important. I see a lot. I think a lot of that is lost nowadays. We have people growing up that aren't instilling any of that. They're fighting a lot. I think a lot of people that might be fighting against the racial backlashes and that type of thing. They may not know really what they're fighting against, and those are the people I think that are burning down the CVSs and doing all those kind of things.
Agreed.
Instead of really protesting, intelligently and that type of stuff. But
proactively.
But then again, like Bobby had said before, not to go back into that, but there's a time for violence, and sometimes that it's not always convenient. You know what I mean? It's not always.
Well, that was the difference between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. You know, X felt like, you know what, we need to let them know.
Yeah.
And this is how they're going to listen. You know, we'll get them to respond one way or the other.
Turn the mic to it, Bobby. I can't hear you.
That was it.
Oh. But yeah, so Casey, these guys were given some examples of certain things. Have you had anything that's like because you're an educated guy, you're in an industry that's do you find that as a scientist, somebody that's working in the science field, is it pretty diverse, or do you find that?
Not
really?
In my office, it's not really diverse. But anytime I come against something that looks like resistance or that looks like it's a racial issue, it just, to me, you just assume that person isn't educated enough, or they don't realize they're being insulting. They're trying to give you a compliment. So you take that into account. And if I feel like someone was actually trying to be derogatory or racist, you have to shrug it off and just keep moving on. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't really encounter it too much being where I am. So yeah, I don't really have any real examples where it's like, oh, that really affected me.
Well, I know you said that you kind of feel in some ways that your voice isn't as valid or valuable, you know, and I can see where where you come from in that in some of those regards, but I'd be interested.
I don't know if it's as a black person. It's just more as a reserved, quiet kind of.
Oh, okay. So maybe like an introvert, versus somebody like an extrovert or something like that. And it's good to get you guys' perspective on some of that stuff, because I think
the best thing for you would be maybe go somewhere that you're not. Like if you go into like.
Well, I grew up in a really diverse. I grew up in a very interesting situation where I had a lot of reverse. Like bigotous kind of remarks made against me, because majority of my friends were black, Hispanic. I grew up in Allentown, where there was a lot of that was my circle of friends. But when I went to the basketball court, because I love basketball, it was like a city park. There wasn't a lot of
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, I was white. They called me white boy, and I had to earn
parental advisory shirt on.
Yeah, exactly.
Billy Hoyle.
I had to earn my way onto the court. Like I wouldn't get picked. You know what I mean? So I had to learn how to be better, at least good enough that I could hold my own on the court. And I did that through hustle and just going every day after school and playing and just practicing and watching people and just shooting. And so I kind of earned my way onto the court. And eventually I was brought into the circle of the people that would constantly, like the older kids. They'd eventually be like, oh yeah, we're gonna pick him because he hustles and whatever. So, but I dealt with that. I dealt with being kind of ostracized a little bit, from the group and the people that I wanted to play, the game with and whatever. Yeah, and I remember catching bonks. Do you guys remember bonks? I don't know if you guys know what that is. Where you lose and they throw the ball at your ass. Your butt. You had to line up against the fence and stuff like that.
Nope.
And I'd get it hard because
we had a similar game. We called it butt on the pole.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I've been dealing with.
Guys playing some.
Well, you know what it's like then, because it's the same for a person of color, where once you fight through all the adversity, then once you get to a certain level where you're accepted, all that washes away.
It kind of washes out. Yeah,
you can be part of a group.
Remember though, you still always have the crabs in the barrel theory too.
Yeah,
that never goes away, because when like brothers in the hood, when they see a brother rising, they want to pull him down.
Yeah,
because they're like, wait, you're going up too far. It was okay when you knew 5 words more than we did.
Yeah.
But now that you know 1,000 words more than we do, you need to come back down here, man.
Yeah.
So you also have to deal with that as well.
It's almost like you start to become privileged. You start to become, I think that's true in a lot of cultures. There's a lot of jealous people out in the world.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't think that's necessarily just like a cultural thing. I think that's all cultures. People are all different, like subgroups or they're always looking out for. You don't want your neighbor to have better things than you, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's that grass is greener type of mentality. What's going on over there? Like, well, they shouldn't be having. They shouldn't get that or this and that.
One of the things I always try to do is like when we have games, especially like a big game, a rivalry game, or a championship game, If there's people lined up with their pens and their paper, I'll sign every stupid autograph. I don't care.
Yeah,
good, because
I think that's extremely important.
Casey's got your he's got the rookie sports card.
Yeah, I was waiting for this.
For me, it doesn't matter. And fortunately, I'm not on the level of like the Peyton Mannings or anyone like that. But if it's only 1,000 people in the stadium, then maybe 50 of them want an autograph.
Yeah, right.
So I can deal with that.
You're making a little kid's day,
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And you know what? You have that privilege, and it's something that you should embrace. Because it's not going to last long. They say that 15 minutes.
I'm dealing with, actually, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I was not going to do it, and now it's kind of relevant. Speaking of neighbors and speaking of that sort of thing. So family moved in diagonal from me last year from New York, from like Queens, New York, black family. And they have 2 little sons, and the one's like 5 and the other one's maybe 7 or 8-ish. But, I mean, these kids are like, every time I'm in the yard, they want to come over, they want to talk to me, and it's just, what's awesome. I mean, it's like the beauty of the innocence like that you see in them, and kind of like that they want to hang out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's been pretty awesome. And now that it's nice out, just this week, twice they were in the yard and like, hey, can we come over? They want me to come over to their house, and I'm like, I can't. I'm just out in the yard doing something quick. But still, it's just like, it's cool. It's like it's meaningful, especially in this world that we live in, and the things that are going on that they don't know about.
Yeah,
that's what Bobby said earlier. That it's taught. It's not something it's not innate. You're not born to hate.
Yeah,
right, right.
Kids love everything.
I mean, but it's like a black family coming from a place that that these kids are used to seeing more diversity into, a white suburban neighborhood.
Well, they might see more diversity now than than before.
Yeah,
depending on what. I don't know their situation.
And the school that they're in, whatever, and but still, it's just it's pretty cool, and it's something that I'm trying to like just showing them about gardening and stuff like that, and explaining to them and having them come over and like try stuff and giving them stuff to take home, and I don't know, it's just really cool. It's just
it's important. I mean, you got to care for everybody. You got to care, love your neighbors, love everybody.
That's how it's brought up. That's how. But again, it goes back to the education and everything. And I'm not like saying, I don't want to deal with these people, or I don't want to deal with these kids. No, like.
And
it's
when
important.
we use the word education, not so that we're not misconstrued here. We're not talking about just the school system.
Right. No. Right. That's what I said before. Okay. Yeah. Right. No.
We're talking about education. Yeah. Education starts in the home. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's where it's going to be the most lasting, form of education is reinforced in the home, and then anywhere else that you go outside of the home is where
Like he was saying, he works in the yard, and the kids might want to come over. I'll be like changing my oil, something simple, or changing brakes on the car, because I love to do my own work. And the neighborhood kids will stop by. Hey, what you doing? I'm on a little, it's called a creeper. I'm on the creeper. I'm under the car, and all I can see is like feet. I don't know who the heck's talking to me. So I lean over. I'm like, oh, it's Bobby. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, changing the oil right now. Well, what do you mean changing oil? What do you got to do? I was like, only way you're going to see is if you come down here. Yeah. So seriously, Tracy comes home one day. There's like 4 sets of feet underneath the car with me. And she's like, what the heck are you guys doing? I was like, changing the oil. But it was cool because it was so innocent, like he was saying. They didn't care what I looked like, or they just were curious what I was doing. Yeah. And I had to do it anyway. Right. So it took me a few extra moments because I was explaining to them what I was doing. I backed the car off of the ramps, make sure they were clear. Like I made them stand on the sidewalk. We came back around.
Sounds like
this is how you check your oil. You know what I mean? I
sounds like you're overachieving. Each one teach 4 or whatever.
But it's something that I embraced. I like the fact that they came over. And like when I play football, the arena. I don't know if you guys are familiar with how it's set up. The fans are right there on top of you because it's like these walls. So in between the fans, you have your teammates. So you literally like right there, like they can reach out and touch you, like if you come to the sideline. So there'll be sometimes where there's a little kid on the front row, and they'll call out your jersey number. Because they usually call you by your number. They'll say, hey, 24, go out there and hit somebody. And you know what? Not that I wouldn't anyway, but when you hear that kid tell you that, it makes you want to go out there and hit somebody. So I make sure I hit him a little extra. And I look over at that kid and I'll point to him, and then you can see him celebrate. You know, it's like,
yeah, that's cool.
See? And that made my day that I made his day, and that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's.
So anyway, we're kind of getting to that witching hour, I think, of the podcast. Everybody's yawning, taking those long pauses.
Yeah.
Bobby's sleeping on the corner there. So we're gonna wrap this thing up, tie it up, and move on. So thank you so much, JDubb, Khadija, for coming in. And I said it right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm bad with that, with like the names and stuff. But thank you guys so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts and offering some awesome, really good insight into some stuff. Really appreciate it. Let's do where we can find JDubb, get his information. Khadija, you have a personal probably account, like you don't have like a Facebook or something that.
I do.
Oh, you have a blog?
I have a blog coming up.
Nice.
So
Boom.
I will pass on the information to you. But
Okay.
I just got offered a job for a junior editor position for a psych blog. So.
Oh, right on.
Cool.
Well,
right, so
congratulations.
This episode will be out in a couple weeks. So
Yeah,
but in
so-
the meantime, you can give it to us, and then we'll just post
We
it.
can promote that or whatever.
We'll post it
Congratulations.
when,
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. JDubb, where can we find you? Where can people find you if they want to check out any of your stuff or just?
I'm on Facebook, James JDubb Washington.
And what about?
We'll link that up.
Also, the team. If they want to come and watch you play or any of
The
that kind
Steel
of stuff.
City Stampede.
Okay.
We're an arena football team, 8-on-8 for people who don't know what arena is, and it's a lot of fun. It's fast paced, high octane, and it's all about offense.
Lots of scoring.
A lot of scoring.
Yeah, you're on defense. That's not very good. You're
They
kind
don't
of
score on. They don't score.
They don't
on
throw
him,
to my side of the
He's
field.
Shut down.
You can ask my
The stats. He's got no stats. That's because they don't throw it his way.
on an island out there.
That's right.
They call
JDubb
it Washington Island.
Washington Island, baby. So they can check you out on there on the Facebook stuff. Bobby, you got some new stuff coming
Breaking
up.
news.
I just heard today, I believe it's July 31st, Bethlehem Art House Gallery on Main Street.
In Bethlehem.
Show in Bethlehem.
And what was the date again?
I believe July 31st.
So it's possibly July 31st, but we'll post links and stuff.
It up.
Just found out today.
Yeah. So congratulations to that, man.
Cool. Good stuff.
Good stuff, brother. You guys, anything?
Nope.
Casey's been doing.
Come on, Casey.
Casey's been throwing out some like all of our awesome Instagram.
Yeah, this is my second
things,
job. I'm just keeping up with.
Yeah,
keeping it rolling.
Hey, we picked up a new Twitter follower in the past 10 minutes. So
Something, right?
Cool.
Our Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, the Twitter is AW_podcasts, and I believe the Instagram is just Art Warrior Podcast. So you can find us there and give us a like and a follow and some donation. We want your money.
Yeah. Also
post that in the group. So we can get people to follow.
Oh yeah, we'll take care of it when. Yeah.
Also the
we'll take care
what's the Facebook? They can just search Art Warrior Podcast.
Facebook Art Warrior Podcast. Special shout out.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Special shout out, Terry Snyder.
Yeah,
she's been giving us a lot of great feedback, emailing us, sending us messages on Facebook. So we want to just thank her for tuning in and for giving us great feedback.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
Yeah,
definitely. As far as the podcast stuff, if you want to find the podcast, go to YouTube. You can find it on Art Warrior Podcast. Just search that on YouTube, as well as the website, which is artwarriorproject.org. You can also go to andrewmkish.com, which is my website, and you can find it on the AW Project tab. You can go on there, find the episodes, the local episodes. Casey's making it rain.
That's all your donations. He's throwing the stereotype in, making it rain in the club. Jeez.
Also, we are still in the process. We're still in the process of taking pre-orders for our T-shirt. So if you want to donate to the podcast, if you like the stuff that we're putting out there, and you really want to get a cool T-shirt with a neat design, pick up one of those. Right now, we have an offer. This will be coming out in July, so this is relevant. If you type in the code July 4th or July 4.
July 4.
Just July 4, you will get free shipping on the T-shirt.
Just go on our Facebook page. It's pinned to the top.
Yeah, so you can check
wall.
that.
Yeah.
Did you say
any information?
Did you say free shipping?
Free shipping.
Oh yeah!
Oh yeah! And you can also, if you just want to get be part of the podcast and you don't wear T-shirts, you can also donate on our website. There's a donate tab. Just click the button. I think it's set to like a small amount of
if you're
like
a freak who doesn't wear shirts.
Yeah, you don't wear shirts. Maybe you're in a nudist colony or something like that. You don't wear clothing. Totally understand. Awesome.
I don't.
You can.
Bobby's he doesn't understand you.
Bobby's not wearing anything right now.
He's wearing nothing underneath his shirt. So you can go there. You can donate to the podcast, and we got some other cool things that are going to be coming out that we've been talking about. So keep an eye out for different stuff. We've been talking about prints, other designs for shirts, and also some other cool things. If you want to check out my artwork, you can go to andrewmkish.com. See my stuff there. I have prints and different things available, and I'll have my shows and things posted on there.
As we learned today, the M stands for Michael.
Yes, Michael. You got that's right.
We didn't know that.
Now I gave that up. Now. See? There we go. You guys caught. But anyway, so thank you everybody for listening in. We really appreciate it, and we will talk to you next time. Later.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"